everybody. We're here talking about a lot of movies today because we have seen a lot of movies this year. Quite a few that I haven't even talked about on this channel, so if you're looking for reviews of Cocaine Bear and Beau's Afraid, those have already been made by me, so we're not talking about those, wherever they may be. But we have a lot of others that we haven't talked about, so that is what we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, we have another person joining us in a little bit, but we'll wait a little bit till Tim shows up. So.
Yeah, he's not here just yet, but he will. So we're going to talk about movies that he hasn't seen first before we talk about movies with him that he has seen. So you want to start with Evil Dead Rise?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about Evil Dead Rise.
All right, so
unless you want to go first.
Well, Evil Dead Rise, to me at least, is like it's unlike the last modern Evil Dead movie, which was the
remake,
the Fede Alvarez one, which I wasn't huge on. I don't like that movie at all. But this is more of like a. This definitely seems like a more interesting reinterpretation where it takes place purely in like a building in the city of, was it Los Angeles or someplace? I don't remember exactly where, but anyway, the movie takes place in a whole new setting than we're used to, but nonetheless it's claustrophobic, and that's actually part of what I like about the movie. Yeah. It's still a claustrophobic location. Yeah, he's like fucking with that. Yeah. Anyway, I actually really ended up enjoying this one a little bit more than I expected, especially given that I'm not usually interested in these kind of remakes. I'm usually not engaged by them because they just seem like just cash grabs. Yeah. And the Evil Dead original movie, the original Evil Dead movies are movies that I hold near and dear to my heart. I love Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3, or Army of Darkness. I love the TV show, Ash vs. Evil Dead. That was very entertaining. But yeah, Evil Dead Rise definitely managed to impress me a little more. It had a lot more interesting filmmaking than the remake from 2013. There were some split diopter shots that I really liked. There were uses of wide-angle lenses that was pretty interesting. They really made use of the visual side of what they could, at least, with this location. It wasn't just like medium shots, a couple wide shots, and mainly just close-ups. It actually had some unique cinematography. I also enjoyed the music from what I remember. Yeah. And also I just enjoyed where it went. By the end creature was pretty satisfying. I liked how it sort of ended in a more unique fashion than it, in that regard, than the other movies have. It definitely makes it stand out a little more. I definitely have a lot of issues with this movie. It is certainly not perfect. I certainly don't think it's that great. There's a lot to judge and to criticize, but I'd rather get into that after you share your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so the Evil Dead franchise, I have seen 2 and 3 beforehand, and I actually just saw the first Evil Dead a couple days ago because I hadn't seen it up until that point, which is weird. I've seen 2 in the Army, and this, but not the original. And I love the original. It's oddly inspirational that that Sam Raimi made this fit almost $100,000 and made this very interesting, claustrophobic, gory film that I really loved and I really hold dearly. It's like a strong 8. Evil Dead 2, one of my favorite horror films and just one of my favorite films ever. It's fun. It's a perfect hour and a half. It flies by. Army of Darkness, I haven't seen in a while, but I do remember liking it. It definitely leans more towards comedy than...
It's a lot more silly.
Yeah. I have not seen the remake or the TV show yet, but I want to.
TV show's really good.
Yeah. Rise was... I did a double feature with this and Beau's Afraid.
Oh.
So, during Evil Dead, I kept thinking about Beau's Afraid, but I kept engaging with this one. And I really liked it a lot. It's I really love the characters as well. Like even I like how oddly real, which is something that I feel like it doesn't take, like most horror films don't really take seriously, is the characters and how you feel towards them.
You don't take the characters very seriously?
Yeah, in other horror films. This one, you feel a sense of danger with them, and plus you feel like their struggles as well. Something like Hellraiser did, the new one. And that's sort of in that regard. I actually did enjoy some of the acting as well. The acting is pretty good, minus I think that the little girl. She had some scenes, but I think everyone else does a pretty good job, especially the mother.
Yes,
the sister. She was great.
The mother did the best job, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's gory as hell, which I love. I love it that scenes of like the cheese grater, and but at points it's also very silly. With also the climax of the film. I love it's using the rules of the first Evil Dead film. Yeah, but it's doing it in a different location. It's like, oh, what if? I think most people were like, oh, what if we see Evil Dead in a city? But it never really happened. This one is, what about an apartment? And I like that, even though it uses that same ideas of the first Evil Dead film, but it makes them a bit not modern, because like the way they did it was like this record, which I like, and
they modernized the Book of the Dead a little bit.
Of the vinyl.
It's on a vinyl. Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
The opening credits were amazing. I love that opening with like the.
You like the opening at the cabin?
Yeah, the cabin, and like the title kind of rises up.
I get that.
To me, I really enjoyed that. Again, not perfect. I felt like there were I felt like some of the pacing was a bit wonky. Some of the acting wasn't great.
Yeah, the little kid was not good. The little girl was not good.
Not good.
And also, it doesn't help that her character had basically no agency.
Yeah.
She literally could have been cut from the movie and nothing would have changed. Yeah. So, having a child actor in the movie and also have her character pretty much mean nothing aside from, oh, that's my daughter. It didn't add anything. It made the character work of the film suffer quite a bit. And you know what? I'm going to sadly disagree with you. I did not like the intro to the movie. Sure, like the opening credit was kind of like the body rising out of the lake and like the Evil Dead rise. That was like, okay, that's something. But that whole opening credit scene just felt, that whole opening like at the cabin felt so tacked on. Yeah. And like just basic horror movie shit that we've seen 100 times. Yeah, sure. I personally just did not enjoy the way they connected the first like 5 minutes to the last 5 minutes. It felt so horror movie typical schlocky shit that we've seen 100 times. Like it kind of just felt pointless to me, and I guess in some respects it's following the typical like the Evil Dead format that we've seen. But in those movies it's different because it's the main character of the movies. In this movie, it's a character that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. So I just felt so tacked on and cheap, and I didn't like that. I also did not like how they interjected the silliness into the film, because clearly Evil Dead is known for being kind of silly. And there's a shot where there's like an eyeball going into the kid's mouth. Like they did in Evil Dead 2 with the eyeball. Yeah. And that's not bad on its own, but the way that it's done, it's taken 100% seriously. Not 100% seriously, but it's taken partly seriously. Yeah. Because in the first in the second Evil Dead, where that same joke happens, it's seen as a funny moment because it's not meant to be a defining like kill moment for the character. But I guess in this movie, it kills the character. Yeah. And that just, to me, is so stupid. Because, I mean, I guess, an eyeball can get lodged in your throat, but, like, it just, I just wish it wasn't, like, that serious. especially if it was trying to be comedic, because having it have consequence implies that it's at the very least trying to be serious. So I just don't understand why that was done.
Yeah, I actually do agree with you on that. And again, it's not perfect by any means. I enjoyed it, but I will say as well, like, it does kind of, I do think that it's trying to push, or trying to, like, oh, remember the first Evil Dead? With the, like, there's, like, this, like, I think they try to recreate the tree rape scene with the elevator. I also feel like they were too much on the side characters, like the other people in the apartment, like, way too much.
They rely on them?
No, like, they use them too much, or, like, there's, like, more, like, they focus more on them than the actual, like, in certain scenes they did. But
I actually don't mind that part. It makes their place in the story a little more just solidified. Because, you know, they're all neighbors on this one floor.
Yeah.
So if it would have been a thing where we just barely see anything of the neighbors, I would have been really annoyed. But good thing we got a little bit. Although I will say, it kind of feels like halfway. It feels like they go halfway with it. They don't actually show enough for me to care about them.
Yeah.
But it shows enough for me to want to care.
Yeah.
You know.
That's kind of what I was trying to say. But failed, because I'm a stinking dum-dum.
Oh, please, no. Another, like, thing I liked about the movie is that, yeah, I will say, the kills were pretty great. That whole moment with the cheese grater, very effective. Although I will say, I heard it, like, hyped up for me before I watched the movie. Like, a bunch of people were like, oh, just wait till you get to the cheese grater part. And then it happened, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's it? Because it was just one shot, so it kind of like, I was like, well, oh well. It was still effective. I didn't hate it. It was still a good hit. It didn't, like, blow me away.
And I did enjoy that it used practical effects. I mean, there was many CGI moments, but
definitely.
But there was many moments of practical.
There were really good practical effects. I would agree.
Which is something that I feel like most people have forgotten is practical effects. Like the first Evil Dead,
modern horror movies, yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's some that do use it, like Malignant use practical effects.
Yeah,
but I feel like now most people are saying, like, oh, we need CGI. But, like, and, like, the first one had, like, these really, like, cheaply made special effects that worked good. But
they were effective.
Yeah, and this one also has that, which...
Yeah. I don't really have much else to say about Evil Dead Rise. I felt kind of mixed on it. I enjoyed watching it. I don't know if I'll see it again willingly. Yeah. Especially because the other Evil Dead movies just work so much better for me personally. Yeah. And I'm not one of those people that's like a purist where it's like, oh, if it's not as good as the original, then it's not good. Like, I'm not one of those people that says that, but I did want, there had to be more here for me to, like, fully see this one as, like, a contender to watch in place of the originals, because all three of them are so well done, and well done. They're very entertaining, much more entertaining. The second one is one of my favorite horror films of all time, one of my favorite horror comedies of all time. Army of Darkness, despite being very silly, still very fun and very entertaining. And the first Evil Dead, despite being relatively serious by Evil Dead standards, still had some pretty effective moments. So this one kind of just felt like it was juggling a little too much, and it didn't feel like it followed through fully on any of them. So, you know, I'm feeling like a decent 2 strong 6 on it. Yeah, I'm
feeling a soft to solid 7.
Okay, I won't be seeing it again, but it's a fun movie.
I mean, if someone wants to see it, if I'm over,
I'd recommend it. Yeah. At least. Like, I'd be like, yeah, it's worth watching. Yeah. Yeah.
I probably won't buy it on Blu-ray anytime.
Oh, no, I won't be buying it on Blu-ray.
Yeah. Alright, how to blow up a pipeline now?
Yeah, we can talk about how to blow up a pipeline. Yeah. You go first this time.
So, How to Blow Up a Pipeline is a film about environmental activists trying to blow up a pipeline. Yeah. Yeah. I heard of this film before. I think it was at TIFF or Sundance. And it sounded interesting, and it was playing with a special Q&A with the composer of it. Oh. Which was pretty cool. It was a really interesting experience, and it's a good film. I do enjoy it, but it does kind of, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I kind of forget less and less. Score is great. I'll say it's my first
Yeah.
thing I love. The score is fantastic. I'm not
really,
saying...
really synthy.
Kind of reminds me a lot of like Tangerine Dream scores, like Sorcerer and Thief. Like
Yeah, it's very synthy. It kind of has a classic 80s sort of action thriller kind of style to it.
Yeah.
But with a modern aesthetic.
Yeah, and I like the pacing of it. There's some really tense moments, like when he's building the explosives in like the little hut area.
Oh yeah,
Or the whole heist, or like trying not to get caught, or even the aftermath per se. I think that there are some really tense sequences.
Yeah, the film does have some pretty great, gritty, tense moments, sequences, scenes.
It's also a very well directed film.
Oh yeah. This is the guy's second movie. His first film was Cam.
Oh right, yeah.
Which I personally wasn't huge on, but after watching it, I was like, ooh, I feel like I should keep an eye on this guy. So when I heard that this movie was, I wasn't planning on watching it very soon, but when I heard that it was directed by this guy, I was like, oh, well then yeah, let's give it a watch.
Yeah. The characters, I felt like they were interesting, but they weren't like the best. At points, it did kind of felt like I kind of felt very disconnected in a weird sense from them, in a weird place.
You felt disconnected? Yeah, I can understand that. Only really a couple of them felt relatable in any way.
The script was okay. There's some really cheesy shit.
I think that's the weakest link. The weakest link is the writing.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess as well. I think that's kind of it. I don't. It's a good film, but it's one that I probably won't see again anytime soon.
Then I guess I'll say that I actually enjoyed this one probably a little more. First of all, despite there being cheesy moments in the writing, I also believe that there was some character writing that was actually pretty strong. Some very good emotional beats that I kind of connected with. I will also say that there are moments in this film where there are characters who make really stupid decisions. Yeah. But this is where I differ, because a character making a stupid decision without real meaning or agency is obviously a big issue. But when a character in a movie makes a stupid decision that makes sense for their character, then I like it. Then it makes sense to me. Then I can forgive it, because I like it when characters make decisions that actually make sense. Yeah. So, for their character at least. Obviously, those stupid decisions I don't relate to, and I'd be like, okay, that's not what I would do. But I also think to myself, yeah, but with what we're seeing from this character, what we've seen from this character so far, it makes sense for them. So, that just adds to the character to me. Also, I really love the visual look of the film. It had a very gritty, 16mm film stock look.
I think it was shot in 16mm.
Yeah. And also I love how it accentuated these bright colors and sort of kept the more soft colors muted. A lot of the browns, a lot of the grays were kind of just felt a lot more muted. A lot of the bright neon colors, you would see red and blue, they felt so much more accentuated. The police siren lights felt really piercing, and it really helped me feel enveloped in how the characters saw those lights and saw certain things. I guess one issue I have is the structure did not quite connect with me as much as I wanted it to. There are scenes where, in tense moments, they show a flashback, and I just didn't quite love that.
That's probably my biggest issue. Is the structure. I think that for me, I'm not saying this is how I would, but if they would show maybe the characters beforehand and then have this huge 50-minute tense sequence, I think that would make it more fun. Sorcerer.
I can understand. I think Sorcerer. Yeah, actually, that's a good example.
I think Sorcerer works because it shows the characters before what happens to them, and then it shows the whole aftermath afterwards. And I felt like this tried to be that in a sense, but also
it feels inspired by something like Sorcerer or what was it, remaking?
Wages of Fear.
Wages of Fear. I almost said Day of Wrath.
No.
Yeah, Wages of Fear.
No,
but
yeah,
it also feels very inspired by movies like Ocean's 11 and a lot of those like 90s, 80s heist movies.
Heat.
Definitely some Heat, maybe even some Thief. Like, there are definitely some inspirations of other films here and there.
Or Collateral.
But maybe not
of
Collateral.
Lots of man film.
Yeah, there's definitely some Michael Mann inspiration in it. But I think it still manages to stand out. And another thing I really loved were the performances.
Yeah.
I didn't feel as if any character was weak. I felt as if, you know, maybe one or two were less interesting than others. Mm-hmm. But the performances did a really great job at making them feel like real people, which is something that I really value. It helps me see them as people instead of just characters on a screen. Helps me connect with them more. I think we already mentioned the score. Another issue I have is that I did not love the ending.
Yeah.
There was I don't want to spoil it. I'm going to try and tiptoe here. But there was a point where they were setting up a certain story event to be happening. And then they did like a psych moment. Like, oh, that's not what actually was happening. Here's what was actually happening. And then there was a whole nother re-psych moment. And then a whole nother psych moment. Like, they did it 4 times in like 10 minutes. And I was like, it felt like whiplash, but not in a good way where I was like, whoa, that was such a ride. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, what's the deal here? Like, it felt like a waste of time.
Yeah.
I may even be remembering it wrong, but I know that there were like multiple turns in different directions that didn't make sense in a very short amount of time that really got me thinking, wow, this does not work. This did not work. I really want to see this again to see if that still affects me on a second watch. Mm-hmm. I don't really remember any of the actors in my head to point out performances in particular.
Yeah.
I know the kid from The Revenant was in this movie. He was actually pretty great. He was probably my favorite character. I also really loved the character who had like a wife.
Oh, Jake Worry's character.
Yeah, Jake Wary's character.
He's also in It Follows. He was the
I knew that guy looked familiar. Yeah.
And he was also in the Fred movies. He played Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, great. Real cinema.
Yeah. I saw him like, is that Fred?
Shochi is the name of the character, but her actress's name is Ariella Barrer. Mm-hmm. She was probably my favorite character. Probably my favorite performance.
Yeah.
Really connected with her struggles. Definitely felt very relatable. She was probably the most relatable character.
Yeah.
I'm not really,
And even, like, if you may not agree with what they're doing, like, the way they're saying it and the way they're doing
what they're saying is very important, obviously, given that this movie is very much about environmental activism and climate change. I will say I do kind of wish that there was just a little more justification for such drastic measures. I know that it's about climate change, and obviously that's obviously very important. But for a movie and the individual inspiration or motivation, I kind of wish there was a little more there for each character. Mm-hmm. I think the only two that make sense are Revenant Kid and Shochi. The other ones, I was kind of like a little bit like, I need a little bit more for me to fully get what you're doing this for. But overall, this was definitely a bigger improvement upon Cam. And Daniel Goldfaber is his name. I will definitely be seeing what he makes next. And clearly this is a movie that shows that he has a good grasp on style. Again, the visuals, the score. Clearly there is some real attention to detail in how the film is presented. And I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll give it a soft 7 out of 10.
I'm feeling like a soft to decent 7. Definitely leaning more towards a soft 7. There are definitely things that bug me.
Yeah.
It'll have to wait for another watch for me to fully come to terms with certain things about it. Maybe things will be better. Maybe things will be worse. I don't know. But yeah, I guess actually I'm giving it the same rating as you, a soft 7. So I guess I don't. I guess the things I'm feeling more positive about, I'm feeling especially positive, and the things you're feeling more positive about, you don't really feel like are that great.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Do you want to do Displaced Rules or Our Waters?
Let's do Displaced Rules.
Okay. Yeah.
So Displaced Rules is a documentary by the all gas, no brakes guy, or Andrew Callahan. And before we start, very aware of the allegations against him.
Yeah.
And it looks, and based on my own research, I always do research into these things because I never want to jump on a bandwagon if it happens to be wrong. But from the looks of it, it appears that, yeah, he is pretty much guilty. And I will say, obviously don't agree with his actions. I'm simply here to talk about the movie.
Yeah.
So, this movie I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I will say the farther I come away from it, the less I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
It was kind of an interesting dive into the everyday right-wing conservative who kind of follows these storm the Capitol sort of beliefs.
Like
QAnon, yeah. There was a whole section where it was shown from this perspective of a child who's been kind of indoctrinated, without lack of a better word. Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely pretty fucked up and also fascinating. And I kind of like how this movie had a bit of more humorous approach to it. Yeah. Because it was kind of funny, actually. There was the whole opening sequence I found to be pretty humorous. But I will say my biggest issue is that I find it hard to justify its film format, because I actually was a fan of All Gas, No Brakes a couple years ago. So watching the movie, I was just kind of like, this kind of just feels like one of his longer YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, but when I watch a movie, I want to feel the justification for it, especially a documentary. Like, I don't want to feel like a documentary is watching a YouTube edit or a YouTube, like, analysis video, right?
Yeah.
And this movie just kind of felt like that a little bit. Maybe like a few moments here and there where there was some filmmaking moments, but I just kind of wish there was more. It would have felt more justifying to me. I did feel very, like, just kind of like, yeah, this just feels like another YouTube video from All Gas, No Brakes. It doesn't feel like a real, like a true movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think this film doesn't age well.
Yeah, I would agree. It gets worse the more that I think about it.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, I think I like diving into, like, right-wing ideas. I think they're all fucking nuts and crazy.
You mean you like looking at them from the perspective of, like,
stupidity, yeah.
Well, not only that, but also just like, okay, what makes you believe these things?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I like, even though I completely and utterly disagree with what they're saying, I do think that it is a very fascinating thing. And this film, it does look at it in a very interesting and funny way, but I think the one thing, and I haven't watched many of his films, so I felt like the presentation did kind of feel a bit wonky. Maybe because I'm not used to his style, but it did kind of feel like a YouTube poop in a weird way. There definitely was.
Just a YouTube video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like... I could see why I never went to theaters. Because I think if someone watched it, it would be weird. And I think that more or less, I think that this could be a better, like, YouTube, like, film.
If it came out on his channel, I'd be like, whoa, this is his best video.
Yeah, but because this was made by...
But because it had, like, an HBO attachment, apparently even A24 had some hand in it, I really wanted more. Like, more in the presentation, more out of the filmmaking.
Yeah, and I guess this was, like, the first big release of the year. Because, I mean, like, right before... like,
the first big streaming release, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, what else was there? Like,
I mean, it came out, like, a year after the riots.
Yeah.
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 So it felt fitting.
Yeah, I mean, like, around 2 years, maybe. They came out the riots happened in 2021. This came out this year. It's like 2 years.
Yeah, true, yeah.
So, yeah. I think maybe it was even released on January 6th. If it was released on January 6th, I think it would be funny in a weird way.
I honestly don't remember when this was released. All I know is that I watched it this year, and I think that It may have honestly come out in like Christmas of 2022.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think it did. So whatever.
Yeah. Again, like I disagree with his actions. I haven't really looked into him. But yeah, it's definitely a fascinating look into a weird.
There's some fascinating moments. Again, it ages less. It ages poorly the farther I get away from it.
Or like the guy that thinks that the Chipotle sign is like a sign of like the devil or something.
That was actually that whole like, oh, Chipotle is like supporting Satan, and he basically like breaks down the sign and how it's supporting Satan. That was funny.
Yeah. That
is something that I remember. I also remember the stuff with the little kid. I also remember the ending did not age well.
I remember
at all.
I know the teacher rap that was just cringe.
The teacher rap? Oh, gross.
Yeah.
But that was also meant to be cringe, so I guess it kind of fit.
Yeah. And I do like how he just kind of like has this like blank expression. Like behind you can definitely tell like, oh, he doesn't agree with this, but he's just trying to be like oh, okay, I'll work with you in this.
He's like, I'll tag along. I'll see what you're about, but I don't agree with you, right?
Yeah.
He definitely has like that look of like, he's like, oh, I'm going undercover with a bunch of right-wing conservatives.
Yeah.
And here's what I discovered. And, a lot of other people have already done that, so it kind of gets less interesting as it goes.
It doesn't feel new as well. That's another thing.
That's very true.
It doesn't feel like something that's like, oh my goodness, no one has ever done this before.
Yeah.
When in like reality, like many people have done this before. So it does kind of feel like something.
Like it felt like an elongated Daily Show episode.
Yeah.
Like with a Daily Show correspondent or something.
Mm-hmm, yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. Again, it doesn't age well for me.
It gets worse for me as we go back in time, as we go farther in time.
Yeah.
So I don't really have much else to say.
Yeah.
I will not be entertaining Andrew Callahan any further, obviously, given his allegations. Yeah. And also, this movie just doesn't... While having moments and scenes that are funny and feel justifying of its film documentary format, I do feel as if it does fall quite short. I'm feeling I originally gave it like a light 7. I'm feeling more like a light to solid 6 on it.
Yeah.
There are moments that I remember being entertaining, and I'm sure if I rewatch it, I won't be bored. So I won't give it a 5, but it's definitely not. My 6 out of 10 does feel a little more generous. So it's like a light 6.
I'll give it like a strong 5.
Strong 5? That's fair.
So something that we both hate.
Micro-budget filmmaking lives on, bro.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so... Hold on, let me scoot over a bit.
Oh, gosh.
We bought the hose.
Alright, so now that the homie is here, we're actually not going to talk about a movie that he's seen, but we're going to rant about a movie, me and him, that
we hate.
He and I have seen, but this guy hasn't seen.
Nope.
But he doesn't care about spoilers for this movie because he wouldn't like it.
I don't give a shit. I'm never going to watch this in my life, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Alright, so
what is it? Why have I heard of it before?
Okay, so the movie we're going to be talking about is The Outwaters.
By Mr. Robbie Banfitch.
By Robbie Banfitch.
Yeah. So, this film is about four friends.
Four friends, yep.
Who go into the desert to film a music video, and weird, creepy shit happens.
Yeah, and apparently they discover that there's this weird power in the mountains of the Mojave Desert or something. And
it's complete fucking shit. It is terrible.
They get possessed by weird worm things that screech.
Weird hentai tentacle creature screeching shit.
Yeah.
It's fucking dog I hate this movie so much.
I hate it too.
It's so fucking boring. That's the big
It's boring,
thing.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is that this film is so boring.
This film is boring.
And
It is
terribly acted.
horrible acting.
Terrible script, bad sound.
It's just a bunch of screaming.
It's the way as well they present these terrifying scenes. Like the whole tent, the first tent attack scene.
Yeah.
It's just shaky cam and black and screams, and you don't feel a sense of terror. And then
Yeah, because obviously this film is very, very, very much inspired, downright sucking the dick dry of Blair Witch Project.
yes,
And
it's
Yeah.
basically
And-
it's like, what if Blair Witch Project was in the desert?
and they're they're also clearly that tent scene is very clearly a reference to the last movie, to that movie's tent scene. But in Blair Witch Project, and I actually ended up rewatching that recently to get a feel for what exactly Outwaters was being inspired by.
Yeah,
And-
I also watched Blair Witch for the first time.
Yeah, and fucking that tent scene was more interesting because A, you could fucking see what was going on.
Yeah.
B, I cared more about the characters, and C, we actually got a sense for what was really happening because they heard screams.
Yeah.
But the screams felt much more distant,
Mhm.
which gave them more atmosphere,
Mhm.
more atmospheric presence than just that Outwaters was doing. And also, I want to say this: there's a scene where a character in the Outwaters is standing on a hill with an axe, and the guy's like, "Who are you?" And the guy with the axe runs over and clearly kunks one of them with the axe.
Yeah.
And the sound the axe makes when it makes contact with the fucking person sounds so fake, and it sounds so processed. It doesn't feel like it was recorded with a camera mic, which is clearly what they're going for.
Mhm.
Obviously, the sound just sounds way too good at times. And sure, there are parts where they use mics, but that's only here and there, and not even in horror scenes.
Yeah.
They're walking around scenes where they're using those mics. So when they're using these camera mics during the horror scenes, all the sounds feel too perfect and processed and
Or
easy to discern.
there's a scene where Robbie, the main character, or Robert, I think the name's Robert.
Mhm.
Who cares? He basically he's chasing someone, and I swear, the whole film, after the tent attack, he just starts becoming a little bitch, and he's just please don't leave me, please don't leave me.
Yeah, and it goes on for a while. This movie is 2 fucking hours.
And there's the whole as well. It's trying to do cosmic horror at points. There's this scene where he's in this star field, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, clearly, also the director said that, the monster is actually able to edit camera footage. And I'm
But even then,
but where's where are we supposed to figure that out? I'm watching this one. I try not to give stock into directors saying, "Oh, the creatures can do this" to justify not explaining shit in the movie.
yeah,
Right.
So when I see that guy say that, I'm just thinking, I think you're just saying that to cover yourself up or
Yeah.
something like that.
the monster looks fake as shit.
There is no monster. It's just a fucking rift in the time-space continuum.
No, there was that creature. There was that gigantic fucking blob that just happened to be there. And
I
it was,
don't remember that.
Yeah, there's this whole scene where he grabs a flashlight and goes back to his mom's house, and I swear the it's this big, and he holds it this far back. The ending is really funny. I do like the ending.
The ending was the only part that I liked because
He basically
it was just at that point nothing had happened in the movie. It was just shaky cam screaming, and occasionally you get weird cosmic shots and bloody shots.
So why are people giving it a 10? That's my question.
Because people find it atmospheric. I personally don't get it. I personally don't connect with it. I'm glad there are people out there that love this. I'm glad. I'm not going to act like they're idiots, because they're not. They have their own view on it, and my view personally is that it's
shit.
It's not only shit, but it's lazy. It's simple, and it doesn't have any kind of real sense of how to be atmospheric. Because again, all the sounds, they feel too perfect. They feel too processed. They don't feel like they're part of the environment.
Right.
And the movie ends in a way that's funny, but something at least fucking happens. And the character basically takes a shark tooth necklace that he had around his neck, and he cuts his dick off. And we see the dick on the ground.
And he plays the first.
He literally plays with it for a minute,
His
and then he
dick?
just and then
His
he just
soft dick.
and then he just walks off, and then the movie ends.
Yeah, you do see some bloody ass.
You see some bloody ass, bloody man ass.
Yeah. I really want to watch that ending. That's all I care about.
Honestly,
and
go ahead.
And the heads on sticks.
Pause,
That was
everybody.
funny.
I'm sorry. That's a little sus.
And,
but, yeah.
Heads on sticks.
Yeah.
No, watching, just wanting to see it for the dick part. I mean,
It's not the gayest shit I've heard.
yeah.
I've
I've said worse.
As well, like
Haven't we all?
it does feel. There's like this new age of horror that I do like analog horror.
It feels so reminiscent of like analog horror on YouTube, but it's not like Mandela Catalog or Backrooms where it feels atmospheric.
Yeah.
This just
feels like nothing, or like there's so many good analog horror that works so well for me, like Mandela Catalog and Backrooms. Walton Files really works for me.
the FNAF VHS tapes.
Those work very well, and
Yeah.
this one doesn't.
No.
It just feels lazy. It feels like shit.
It's trying to be yet another found footage horror film, and it's trying to be indie.
Yeah, but even then,
But
Skinamarink as well. That like
Skinamarink was a lot better.
Skinamarink, to me, I give that 10 out of 10. That's a masterpiece in my eyes. But
Fair enough.
even then, Skinamarink just does so much unique and nuanced ways of creating its horror that I like a lot more. I think I would watch Skinamarink 500 times than to ever watch this again. I think it's so boring, so lame, so stupid. I hate it.
All the acting sucks too.
It's so bad, and the first half is just nothing.
The first half is just
It's just
damn.
They're trying to build the characters up, but fuck, they are so boring and so lame. I couldn't care less. It's bad.
There's also some really bad auto-tune in a scene,
Yeah.
and they're saying wow, she has such a great voice, and you can hear the pitch change in the auto-tune, so it's that's not real.
Yeah. Damn.
That's not real. In a movie that's trying to be so real, found footage, and kind of trying to get that sense across, it doesn't feel like that. At least with Blair Witch, those characters are really fucking out there using those really shitty cameras, and they're stuck in the middle of it for real.
Right.
They were actually lost, and they were actually mad at each other, and the acting feels so real and so genuine. It feels like they're actually in danger and they're actually fucking scared. In this movie, they're just fucking screaming.
Yeah.
Right.
It's tentacle thing. It's okay. Anti-monster, yeah. It was very, very, very stupid.
And very, very bad. I don't have anything more to say.
Bad movie. I'm giving this one a 3 or 2 out of 10. I can't decide. I think I rated it a 3 on Letterboxd, but the more I think about it, it's a 2.
Yeah, I'm giving it a soft 3, but honestly, it could be a soft 2 any day.
Bad movie.
Or strong 2. It's so bad film.
Bad movie. We wanted you to be here to witness that.
It's close to the Fanatic. The Fanatic though is the best. The Fanatic is the most amazing character study of all time.
No, the
You
Fanatic.
heard it from me first. It's
honestly
in my
would rather
top
watch-
10.
I'd rather watch the Fanatic than this. Let's do Oppenheimer since this is one.
Oh yeah. Let's talk
Okay.
about Oppenheimer. All right,
Okay.
so Oppenheimer. We didn't talk about it in the vlog because we were fucking tired.
Big boom boom movie.
Big boom boom movie, and my girlfriend would be here, but she's at work right now, and she's kicking
fuck.
ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice one. Anyway, we saw Oppenheimer in the theaters. It was late, and I want to preface that any criticisms I may have, I want to see this movie again before I
Same.
before I solidify my criticisms, my rating is going to be a little bit loose, but you know what, since you just got here, why don't you explain what Oppenheimer is and your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to preface that too is like I agree. Like I need to rewatch it again before I can even fucking rate it because honestly, I can't tell if I thought it was too long, and because I think there was moments where I was like, okay, what is it really doing right now? But it was keeping me engaged. Like it never lost my attention, but there was moments where I was like, am I just like dumb and like I should be like more latched onto this, or is it actually just kind of meandering right now? I couldn't really tell on my first watch.
Yeah, I get
For
that.
about the first hour, I was kind of like warming up to the movie a little bit. So I'm definitely going to need to watch it again, and I want to go see it in 70 millimeter.
I will say, when it kicked in pretty hard, and I was actually pretty much in it for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and honestly, like, it ended fantastically. Like, and honestly,
Had a great ending.
Amazing ending. Like, final 30 minutes were amazing. Honestly, final hour was amazing, and like, all the stuff where it started, and it started with the first scenes with the black and white and Robert Downey Jr., like, just to explain, the black and white is the objective, like what actually happened. The subjective was
In color from Oppenheimer's point of view.
Yeah, in color, Oppenheimer's point of view. So that's what that was.
It's more like blue and white than black and white, but it's supposed to be.
You're right.
It did kind of look the black and white did look a weird, like, I mean, it looked a weird shade, but that, I think it was just the theater screen.
Yeah.
Because I've seen images from theaters, and apparently, like, I haven't seen that blue tint anywhere. So that's just our experience, I guess.
Look, it's definitely like it's very dark, kind of. Yeah. Even the color scenes are fairly, like, dark. You know what I mean? Kind of, it felt to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, let's see. I really loved it, though. Like, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's what I forgot what I was saying. We got the second half, like, really, really kicked in, and the ending was amazing. The stuff with Robert Downey Jr., like, got better and better and better. Like,
yeah,
when you really started to uncover what...
To piece together what it was going for.
Yeah, to piece together some of the twists and turns of the story started to piece together, because at first it's kind of exploring, kind of giving you a lot of background, right, on Oppenheimer and, like, kind of him growing up and, like, going through school and stuff, and his university experience. And at first I was kind of wondering what it was doing, but, like, once it really got into it, it was really great. And all the sound in it is fucking amazing. Like, all the stuff. There was a couple scenes. I'll just say there's a scene where he's giving, like, a speech and to, like, a crowd of people, and that scene blew me the fuck away. Like,
that was very well done.
Like, you could tell
it really immersed you into the character's mindset at the time.
Yes, and I will say that's what the movie does do better. Like, as it keeps going, it really immerses you in his head at a certain point, and at a certain point, like, you really are in his head. Like, at first I was kind of like, okay, what is it doing? But then, like, once those scenes started happening, I really felt connected to the character, for sure. So it's an interesting movie. It's definitely one I'll need to watch again, but I really loved it. Like, I could see myself giving it an 8, to be honest, like 7 or 8, but
yeah.
I just need to rewatch it, really. Yeah.
You want to go next or me?
You can go first.
Okay, well, my thoughts on it, pretty similar to him, except I will say I was probably a little more into it because I'm a pretty big history guy. I really love looking into historical events, and I studied a lot about the Manhattan Project when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So seeing that sort of presented on screen kind of felt like a very weird nostalgic trip for me. Also, yeah, this is probably one of the better character studies of the year. It feels so nuanced through the performance of Cillian Murphy, and also a lot of the side character performances were really fantastic, but of course Cillian really stole it, you know, really did a fantastic, amazing job performing his character. There was this consistent feel of melancholy with his character that felt very real, because, like, to be able to comprehend building such a weapon, I mean, you kind of have to be emotionally separated from everything and everybody, and I think Cillian captures that pretty damn well perfectly.
Yeah.
And there are just so many scenes where I really feel just his gears turning in his head, and you really feel what the character is thinking. And you may not always relate to his actions, but I mean, like, in a world where they were in, where they felt as if, and basically kind of knew that their world could be obliterated by their enemy, and they really needed to build that weapon faster in order to gain that upper hand in warfare. Like, that's a very important feeling to nail down, and there really did feel like a sense of consequence, even though we already knew where the story was going, obviously. I think also the score, incredible. Ludwig Göransson, I think you say Göransson?
Yeah.
I can't remember
Amazing.
Can't remember his last name. Yeah, really, really great. It's kind of surprising to see so many people listening to it outside of the film. That's clearly a sign of his talent. You know, I've had a few friends say that they've been listening to the score lately, and I really, really respect that they're able to take that in. I haven't, but I think I should. It also, I think one thing that also helps is that it's a movie where it's structured in a way that feels as if he's looking back on the events. There are people saying it's just, there are some weird criticisms I've seen saying that, oh, it's just a montage of random scenes spliced together, and I don't agree with that at all, because it feels like it's structured in the way of someone recalling memories. So seeing them spliced together in kind of a loose format like this feels more in place, especially with that character study element that I talked about earlier, you know?
And it felt natural. You know,
it still felt natural.
I'll say it felt natural. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel uncomfortable to me.
No, I didn't. It didn't feel jarring to me either. It felt like a real structure in a way.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of criticisms, there were just a lot of cast members where it was kind of hard to see the characters.
Yep.
I kind of just saw the actor. The biggest offenders were probably like Rami Malek. Matt Damon a little bit, but I mean, there were parts, he was in it enough where I kind of saw him as the character just here and there.
There was just a couple lines where he was like, this is the most important fucking thing in the country, or something like that, and I was just like, it just didn't land. Like, there was a couple lines that just, like, he said that just didn't land. Like, there was one
I
scene
can understand that, yeah.
when he was talking to that guy, I don't know, where the guy was like, no, I don't want to help you, like, you know, build the bomb, and he's like, this is only the most important fucking thing in the country, or something. And the way he said it, I don't know why, it just didn't work for me. I don't know, it's a weird criticism.
No, I get it. I think there are bigger offenders, though. Like I said, Rami Malek. There's a weird cameo. And I don't like saying cameo, because it shouldn't feel like a cameo. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, I mean, it actually kind of added to the fun a little bit, trying to guess who the next character was. Casey Affleck.
Oh, yeah.
When he appeared in the movie, I was like, oh,
yeah,
that just feels like a cameo. Also, Gary Oldman.
No, yeah. There's just so many actors in it.
There are a lot of actors, but I will say, I kind of like how there are some relatively less known actors who had careers, or, you know, who hadn't had much careers.
And they had big roles.
And they had big roles, and I was actually able to see them as their character, particularly one of the scientists played by an actor who was in 10 Things I Hate About You. I can't remember the character's name, but if I show a picture...
Oh, shit, I know
Josh
you're
Peck?
No, not Josh Peck, no.
That was also weird, but he did pretty good.
He was okay.
He was okay, but that, like,
No
another
no actor did a bad job. Let me
It
just
just was a
preface
little
that right
bizarre
now.
or something.
It just, a little bit. It felt a little odd. Like, it did feel like a cameo, or like, oh, here's this actor now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every here and there, that's how I felt. Also, Josh Hartnett, as that one scientist, Josh Hartnett.
Oh, yeah. As the...
Dane DeHaan was oddly not bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I usually hate him.
Oh, yeah, he wasn't bad. I will say, another thing about the acting part that surprised me is, like, in the first couple scenes you see Cillian Murphy's character, and, like, you know, a lot of the movie happens at, like, surrounded this interview or this like what is it?
It's like a tribunal. Not even that. It's
No.
like a trial, but it's not really
In
a
a
trial.
room. It's
Yeah,
just a
there's
trial with,
a lot of scenes in this one room. Yeah,
on each side. And it starts like that. And there was his wife is sitting in the back, and they don't introduce Emily Blunt as his wife for a second. So at first, like she's like just kind of in the background, and I was like looking, and I was like, is that Emily Blunt? Like, I couldn't tell, but it's just funny that they don't even pay her any mind for the first hour. Like that was just like to prove the point. Like they had so many huge actors that they were just like.
Yeah.
They didn't even need to show her till like an hour in, like
No. But when they did give her time to shine, she did a really great job.
yeah, she did. She was
The
really
whole
good. Florence Pugh was good too.
Florence Pugh was really good. Quite honestly, it's not even like I don't think it's a rated R worthy movie.
I mean, there's
Remember
a
the
lot
scene
of
in the
there's a lot of
interview
swearing as well.
when he's like imagining her on top and she's like
Oh, that scene was
Yeah.
really odd. The whole interview scene.
fucking.
That's
things.
so. That was actually kind of stupid. I didn't like that. That was weird.
I know that was a little weird, but I don't think that makes it.
I'm
I
kind of
feel like that
liberal.
makes
I'm
it
kind of
tolerated.
liberal with ratings. I don't believe that I think the MPAA is overly strict. I don't think Oppenheimer would be that inappropriate for anyone around the age of starting off at the least
14.
15, 14. If I saw this at 14, I wouldn't give a shit.
No, yeah.
I wouldn't be that affected by it. I think that this getting an R rating is a little jumping the gun.
More just that it's just kind of fucking depressing. You know what I mean?
It is a very
That's-
existential.
It's not really about the
dreadful
one
film. Yeah,
not the one scene. Because Dunkirk was, I think that wasn't R, right?
that wasn't R.
Yeah,
and that
see,
had
so-
more outright violent scenes.
Yeah, so that movie, I don't know. I don't understand the MPAA either, but
Yeah.
They're fucking weird.
it's just how it is.
They're weirdos. The MPAA is a bunch of homophobic pieces of shit, and
Well-
it should be dismantled.
Should I go? Because I have.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead with your thoughts.
I walking out the theater, I was actually kind of disappointed with it. I wasn't huge. If I just came out of the theater and we did this, I would have given it a 5.
Ooh,
Really?
Yeah. But as I kept thinking about it, the more I really love it. Cillian Murphy gives a phenomenal performance. I think that may be one of his best of his career, if not his best. The way he's like a statue.
Yeah.
At times, and how even moments where you shouldn't feel like a statue, like the scene at the speech scene, even though it's this very almost downright heartbreaking scene and terrifying, he still gives this almost statue appearance, which I love, and because I felt like when you see interviews with Oppenheimer, you do kind of get that sense of
He really nailed the stature of Oppenheimer.
Yeah, but it did. Even though he was like that, it didn't feel like it did feel supernatural to his character.
Yeah.
You know?
The bomb, even though it's the biggest selling point, it's still very good. It's a great scene.
The whole
It
the whole
looks amazing.
detonation. Yeah.
It looks great. There's a great build up
Yeah.
towards there.
Yeah, and
The whole-
it's one of the only ironic. I love how it's ironically one of the only scenes that's silent.
yeah.
It's actually the only scene that's silent. It's the only scene that doesn't contain any score. The actual detonation of it. It went completely silent for 30 seconds, and it's the only point of silence in the movie is ironically the detonation of the bomb.
Yeah.
And there are a couple moments like that onward where he's thinking about the detonation of the bomb, and to him it's still silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
That is pretty great.
And then there's that big boom that really hits hard.
yeah.
Kind of comes out of nowhere, to be
Yeah,
honest.
but I liked it.
It works.
It works.
Because it's obviously trying to show the travel of sound in that that
Yeah.
So it works. It does.
There's a lot of characters they hate, especially the lawyer character.
Yeah, there are characters that are built up to be kind of hated.
Yeah. All the acting is great. If I would have come out as well, I would have hated. I did not like Robert Downey Jr. But as I kind of still
Wow.
more,
Really?
I actually really enjoy his character.
I love him in this movie.
I think
It's great seeing him not be fucking Tony Stark for once.
I know.
Yeah. I mean,
Because in
he's
all
not
of,
in the film.
in a lot of movies that I've seen him in where he's not Tony Stark, like say for example Zodiac, he's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like he's a great actor, but he got stuck doing Tony Stark for so many years that he kind of fucked his career in that
did.
way.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of hard to not see him as Tony Stark. And while this didn't 100% convince me that it was the character, he still did a great job where it mattered. And he was able to escape that Tony Stark shadow for a little bit with this.
Like, production looks great. Cinematography,
Production design is fantastic.
the costumes and the cinematography are excellent. Score's great. My biggest complaint is that it is a bit fatty. It is a bit chunky. There's definitely some fat that you can trim. But again, in reality, I could watch this again and maybe won't have that opinion.
It's hard to think about what I would cut.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I need to rewatch it.
Again, yeah, that
Really,
just means I gotta go into it again and
Yeah.
give it another shot. I will be seeing it again in Boston with my buddy, so
Oh, shit.
I'm excited for that. I will likely be seeing it in 70mm. I also want to see it with Travis in 70mm, but
Yeah.
But, I mean, you have to see if that theater works.
right? Yeah, fuck.
You check out his last video to see that. Yeah, it's a really, again, as I kept thinking about it, the more I really liked it. It is one I'm probably going to go see again, maybe once or twice, and then maybe.
I just got to experience that 70mm experience. If that's the way it's meant to be experienced, then that's how I want to experience it. And I'm lucky enough to live near one of those projectors, so I'm really hoping I can get it before it leaves theaters and before.
Yeah,
Like,
like IMAX, because it
Yeah, but
stuff
fuck,
goes
man.
so quick there.
But fuck, man. Yeah, it gets sold out all the time. I can't even get one in the middle of the week now. It's fucked up.
I know. Everyone's trying to see it.
Everyone's trying to see it.
It's awesome though, you know. I will say the one last thing.
We are so back, baby.
Yeah, I will say the last thing. I understand like how you thought Robert Downey Jr.'s character at first, right? Was like you didn't care much about him. It's because he is probably maybe the most nuanced character of the film, or one of the most nuanced characters.
Yes.
He starts off like kind of defending Oppenheimer in court.
We see his motivation slowly unravel throughout the film, and that part
Right.
is just as interesting to me as the bomb,
Yeah.
or Oppenheimer and the bomb.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff about Oppenheimer and the bomb was interesting, but then everything with Robert Downey Jr. I thought was like, at first, I could see myself being like, what is this? Like, because it kind of just throws you right in. It doesn't really explain anything about it. It just kind of throws you right into it,
Yeah.
into the courtroom. But like, as it kept going, you're right. Like his motivations start to unravel, and you start to see why he's doing these things, what his motivations are, and it becomes very interesting. And just as satisfying as those final 30 minutes are for Oppenheimer and the bomb story, it's just as satisfying for the black and white scenes with Robert Downey Jr.
I completely fucking agree, 100%. Honestly, that
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I also have like a tiny. There's again, I could watch it again and not care, but like Benny Safdie at points.
I know.
Yeah, that was like the one. I don't know.
Benny Safdie.
his
I thought he was
accent.
pretty. I thought he was
I think
pretty
he's-
good.
I
but
think there are some people who are who are overdoing it with that criticism
Yeah.
of his performance.
Again, I can watch it. I'll watch it again, and maybe it won't change.
There are
much,
some
but-
accents that are there. His accent is a little odd,
Yeah.
but he's hitting the emotions.
he
Yeah.
is.
Like the emotions are well defined. He's actually
doing
like he
it.
did a good job performing. It's just the accent was a little awkward at times.
And as well.
But that's
the-
something I can forgive as long as the emotions are there.
Right. In
There's-
movies like that, there's so much worse.
Yeah,
Like,
there are
I've
movies that are
seen
so much
accents
worse.
that are worse.
There's also a scene where they look aged that kind of looks bad, especially with
The
Benny.
aged
Yeah.
makeup. Well, it only looked bad on Benny Safdie because
Yeah.
his hair looked blue.
No, and his cheeks.
His cheeks, yeah. There's one scene where they show some old age makeup on Oppenheimer
I mean,
and Blunt.
Oppenheimer and Blunt don't look bad.
They don't look bad. No, yeah, I agree. But yeah, on Benny it looked just a little weird.
Also, I guess maybe I disagree with you on that. I actually mind Rami Malek, and I like the.
You like Rami Malek?
I liked his scene where
His performance was fine, but it was hard for me not to just see Rami Malek.
Yeah.
I don't have too much to say.
No.
I think I went over my criticisms, but the stuff that hits hard hits more than hard. Like hits really hard, and it's really effective. And the issues are plentiful, but the issues don't hit that hard.
No, they're not.
To me personally, at
Me
least.
too.
Yeah.
So
Like I could see there being people having issues with like structure and pacing, and then a little bit with like some acting or weird casting choices. Like there's like a list of stuff that you could kind of go in and pick through. But honestly, like overall, it hits so much harder than those criticisms. Like there isn't any big thing that took me.
yeah, no, there wasn't any like defining criticism that I was like, fuck this movie.
Like maybe when I rewatch it, I'll have that. But I think I'm gonna like it more. I don't know.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's a movie that's going to linger much better. Same thing with Barbie.
Yeah.
I think both of those movies are gonna age pretty well.
Because Barbie was another one where like at first I didn't really get what it was like doing in the first 15 minutes, and then like once the humor started to work for me, it was a joyride.
It made much more sense and it hit much harder. I agree.
So I think if like having that knowledge of where it was going with the humor, I think the first 15 minutes I probably will love them.
Yeah,
When
I'm
I
really
rewatch
excited
it.
to see it again.
Yeah.
So, you want to go first with ratings because you
I don't
delivered the
know.
movie?
I don't have one. 7 or 8. I have to rewatch
7 or
it.
8? Okay.
It's between that for me.
I'm feeling I give it like a decent to strong 7. I liked it a lot. It could likely change to an 8. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but that's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. I'm feeling a soft. I mean, originally I would have given it a strong 5, but now thinking over it with everything, I would actually give it a soft to decent 7.
Okay.
I could see it changing to an 8 or even possibly a 9.
Wow. Hell yeah.
So yeah.
We're back, baby. Cinema.
Also, it was a long day for him.
It was also, he was up for like 24 hours,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
he flew
He had a
from
rough day.
Kansas to Orange County, went to Criterion's with us.
No. I went from.
Oh yeah, you told it.
I went from Kansas to Salt Lake City for a layover, to Orange County, breakfast, Criterion's, Barbie,
And
Oppenheimer,
and
then finally back to the hotel, went to bed.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were up for
Your
a
brain
while.
was probably mush.
Your brain was
by
probably
you
like-
got to Oppenheimer,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
okay if you know.
So yeah, definitely a rewatch is needed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's good on Oppenheimer.
yeah,
that was
I
good.
agree.
Okay, so before we move on with the video, I just want to let you know that since recording that, me editing this video, I have seen the movie 2 more times in theaters. I saw it in 70mm in Boston with my buddy Mike, shout out Mike, and I saw it in IMAX 70mm, so I've seen it in 70mm and IMAX 70mm. I've seen it in its intended format, and I am adding this little addendum because both me and Jacob saw it again. I don't think Thomas did, so this won't be this won't be from him. This is from me and Jacob. We upped our ratings too, but we both gave it, and now it's an 8 for us both. We found that the criticisms, particularly with the actors, the casting being a little weird, we particularly found that not to be the case anymore. We did not find that as distracting as we did the first time we saw it. Now, after seeing it a couple more times, I personally say, yeah, that it doesn't apply. I think that they fit their roles well enough for me to see them in their roles pretty well, and they do good jobs. I think the only 2 that still don't work for Jacob are Matt Damon and Rami Malek. I don't entirely agree. But I also don't disagree. I'm not saying that he's wrong for having that opinion. That's stupid. But I think we also mentioned that the makeup, the old man makeup on Benny Safdie looked weird. It made his hair look blue. That was the screen. That was not the movie itself. So if we did, I think we criticized it a little bit. That doesn't apply anymore. That's gone. Here are some paragraphs that I asked Jacob to send me regarding his takes on his new take on the movie. So if you want a better idea of just how he feels now, just pause to read either of those. As for me, I pretty much feel the same way. It is a great spectacle.
I don't find it slow at all. I think its 3-hour runtime just flies by. I'm a huge history man, so I love the story that it takes on. And I also love how it's also kind of a political look at just what was going on in America at the time of this whole debacle, with both Oppenheimer building the bomb and then afterwards. It's not just about Oppenheimer building the bomb. There's actually a lot that goes on afterwards. And I personally love that take. I'm glad that it does that. I'm glad that it's a huge encompassing story. There are a lot of people that disagree. There are a lot of people that think it could have been trimmed. And yeah, if you wanted to make it a more focused story, yeah, sure, you could have. But it would have lost a lot of what it's truly trying to go for, which is it's trying to be about more than just Oppenheimer building the bomb. It's trying to be about Oppenheimer building the bomb and then also the political climate of the late 40s and 50s of when, Oppenheimer was still in government, having words on national security. It's trying to be about more than just him building the bomb, and I personally love that. I guess my only other criticism remaining that still kind of remains is that I find that the first third just takes just a little bit, it's just a little, just a tiny bit, takes a tiny bit slow. It's a little bit slow going. Not even that big a criticism, honestly. I guess also I found some script moments to be a little stupid. There's some lines here and there that I'm like, okay, this is just a movie moment. There are also some music choices that just feel like movie moments. But personally, they're small issues. Overall, I think the movie's great. I upped my rating to an 8. So did Jacob. I don't know about Thomas. I don't know what's going on with. I don't know why he hasn't watched it again. So I don't know. Sorry. I'm trying to keep it steady while also not covering the mic. Sorry about that. Anyway, that is how we feel. That is how me and Jacob feel now. It is now an 8 out of 10 for both me and him. For me, it's like a light to decent 8. I don't know how he feels, but it's 8 out of 10 for both. So with that done, back to the video.
Spider-Verse. Let's do Spider-Verse next. Alright, Alright, next up we have Spider-Verse, and we're going to start with this guy, because he saw it for the first time last night.
Yeah.
Shit, how was that?
What a masterpiece this was.
Really?
I fucking adored it. This is, the more I'm sitting with it, the more it is becoming my favorite. It is so creative.
Of the year.
Okay. It is. It is so creative, so funny, so imaginative, so entertaining, so unique that it completely just blew my mind. Like, even in the first frames, I was just blown away by the animation, by the characters, by the raw, but also just the interesting ideas of the Spider-Verses, and also just this world that it's creating at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
The characters, I think, are really, are great. Gwen gives a lot more in this film than in Into the Spider-Verse, because in Into the Spider-Verse she was just kind of like she may be like the love, she was like the lead per se.
She was the lead lady.
Yeah, but then in this one, like, you get more of why she is this way, and you get more of her backstory.
Yeah, you get more of her character in general.
Yeah, and I do really. You're sitting on my feet.
No, I'm not. I'm just looking. I don't know.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry.
You're good.
But and then as well, there's also all the other Spider-Mans. There's Spider-Punk.
Spider-Punk, yep.
That was
Hobie.
Great.
Hobie.
Hobie.
Hobie to homie.
Slightly sexually attracted to Hobie.
You do you, buddy.
The ending, I think, is when it ended, I was disappointed as a motherfucker. I was like, no, why? I was so upset.
Yeah.
But it actually works in a weird way that I loved. Again, I think that I need to rewatch Into the Spider-Verse, but still, Spot, great villain, very funny. Like, the first time we see him, stealing an ATM. That was
Yeah.
just him failing and getting beaten up.
Him like saying, "Please let me rob you. Don't make this a bad experience for me."
Yeah.
But also of like all the fights as well. Like there are some amazing fights.
Every fight in this movie tops the fights in the first Spider-Verse, or
Yeah.
almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
They turned it up to 11.
Yeah.
Literally.
As well, there's a chase scene with all these different Spider-Mans with all different styles that is so well done.
Yeah.
There's also the ideas of canon events that work. There's the idea of growing up as well and trying to letting go as well, especially with the mother character.
Yeah, it kind of tapped on parental duties and parental responsibilities.
It very did. Very
Yeah.
much did.
And to me, I just adored it. I adore this film. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. To me, it's a masterpiece, and who knows. But again, I get why some people may not love it as much as me, but as someone that had a little bit of an idea what happened, like what is this film about, but knowing close to nothing, I was just blown away by it. So that's what I have to say. So we'll go with you, Jacob.
All right, yeah, I agree. When I first watched it, I loved it. The animation is amazing. I love the choice of like color for the more like. I love the choice of color throughout the whole film. Like it's beautifully animated, but like especially in those emotional scenes when characters are like
The entire Gwen Stacy dimension is
Mhm.
like the entire Gwen Stacy dimension is animated emotionally, and all the colors work to reinforce the
The
emotions
yeah.
of Gwen Stacy and her father.
yeah. So like all the scenes, yeah, of Gwen and her father talking, you can see like the colors in the background changing and adapting to like the conversation and like the way that they're sharing their emotions.
I agree.
Which I love, and it's just shows this little details, which I love.
Right.
I love it when animators, and especially with these, the directors cared a lot about the choices that they made in this
Agreed.
film, and
Yeah.
I think that a lot of it also has to do. I think the creativeness gives it just this great blend. Sorry, you can go. I apologize.
No, you're good. I completely agree. Yeah, I really would say what I think makes me love this movie more than the first one is just like it was crazy how like I thought the first one had like good like character development and like surprisingly like emotional for a movie like that. I didn't expect it. This movie goes above and beyond in that, and it goes above and beyond in the fight scenes, like they said too. Like it kind of just takes everything the first one did and just goes above and beyond, goes even better. I've never like seen a movie like a part one like this where it actually felt like so much shit happened. I've seen complaints of people saying that like, part ones are dumb. Like it didn't feel the ending didn't feel satisfying. But when you think about everything that happened in that movie and all the shit that happened, there is so much stuff that happens, and it moves so fast. It's like the fastest paced movie of the year.
It's so much longer than the first one, but it feels just as long.
It feels just as long. It's honestly faster paced than the first one. It flew by. Like
I was never bored. Like
No.
I think
Neither was I.
I had to leave like once just because I had to use the bathroom. But other than that, like even then when I had to go, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna miss so much as well. But like, and as well, just again, yeah. But it just kept going. Like you think one thing happens and then another thing, and it just keeps on going and going. It's so rapid as well that it works. It's so well paced.
Yeah, I agree. Same thing was what he said. It's super well paced and like, all the voice acting is great. All the technical stuff is amazing. So much is happening. Like they're swinging, like all the webs swinging scenes are awesome. Like, and it's crazy how fast everything is happening. Like the way that they're like talking about shit, like while they're fighting, and like the quick jokes they're making. Like you need to watch this movie twice before you can like completely like. At least that's what I
Completely absorb everything.
like so much happened on my first viewing. I felt overwhelmed. I saw it with my friend in Texas, and like I gave it a 7 at first because I was like so kind of like taken aback by it. Like I didn't fully grasp it, and I thought it was like, I thought it was actually a little too much. Like, I thought it was a little too much for me. It was a little bit like, okay, they're going for a lot here, but I don't know how much it all hit for me. Then on the second watch, it became a lot more clear, like what was really, and the stuff that hit really hit.
Yeah.
And I was kind of a little confused by like the final 30 minutes. Not confused about what happened, but confused how I felt about the last act. But when I rewatched it, completely disagreed. Like, I kind of completely got it and like loved what it was going for. And I loved the twist in the final 30 minutes.
He can test that. He can do that with me.
Yeah, watching it with him.
Just
I was always looking over here and there at like the big story moments, and during the big twist of the third act or the final 5 minutes or 10 minutes, yeah, he definitely had like a recoil, like whoa moment, and it was pretty funny to watch.
Yeah,
I had that too when I first watched it.
I actually kind of got it a little earlier, but I'll get into it when it's my turn.
Yeah, no, I mean I really don't have that many complaints. I mean, it's an amazing for Sony. Like, my God, for Sony, it's the best thing they've done in a long ass time. Like, my expectations are so low for them at this point that like I was just so pleasantly surprised for this. Like, when I saw that they were gonna do like a part 1, I was like, oh my God, here comes more fucking Hollywood shit. Like, this is gonna suck. But there's so much effort put into that movie, so much care.
Yeah,
and yeah, it was amazing. And it was weird. I just watched the Mission Impossible Part 1 thing too, and like that also wasn't bad, but like my God, like this Part 1 just
I don't care much for
knocked it out.
I don't care much for
I don't care much about the Mission Impossible movies either. I didn't even watch it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I was just saying, like, just to prove, like, these Part 1 things are happening.
Sorry, nerds, we don't care about your shit.
We say as we're talking about Spider-Verse.
Yeah, like, but I feel like Hollywood is insisting on doing these, like, Part 1, Part 2s, like, you know, make more money, obviously.
Yeah,
but, like,
we're going through that phase again.
But here's the thing. Spider-Verse did it, like, amazingly. I don't have a complaint in that regard, as most people did. And, yeah, it was just, like, a mixture of fun, emotional, sad, happy. I don't know. I felt it all in it, and I had a great time.
Yeah.
Seen it twice now, and it's amazing.
Alright. Okay, so my thoughts on Spider-Verse.
Yes.
I
Give us
love
your
it.
wisdom.
Shut up. I thought it was great. I loved it. I think I have a few more criticisms of it than you guys do, but I want to preface that this is coming from someone who actually is not huge on the first Spider-Verse movie. I think it's good. I think it's entertaining. Actually, I like it more now than I used to. My biggest issue is that the story just isn't really that unique. It just kind of felt like another Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
But rewatching it did enforce that is the point, because they're doing like, oh, let's do this one last time. Like that's clearly the point. Mm-hmm. So I will say I'm not nearly as I'm not nearly as critical of it than I was back when it first came out. But I will also say, watching Spider-Verse, I'm sorry, the new one, it makes it feel a little worse because I enjoy this one a lot more. And I will agree, the ending does feel a little bit inconclusive. When I think of part ones that work, I think of stuff like Lord of the Rings or Kill Bill. Movies that clearly have defined endings to where you don't have to fully continue, but you can if you want to. And this one, it kind of just feels like I'll never be able to watch it and then not watch the third one, right?
True.
It kind of feels like, just to me personally.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it just doesn't, like, I don't know, it just didn't quite scratch the itch of, like, a great ending that I would have wanted. But I'm just going to say this now. I would rather take a much more unique and out there story with a less conclusive ending than a more basic, simple story like the first Spider-Verse with a more conclusive ending. That is just my personal view. I prefer it when my movies stand out more in that regard. And also, the animation turned up to 10,000, man. They really went as far as they possibly could with this movie compared to the first one. I love the animation of the first one, and I still think it holds up, but looking at it now, it does not wow as much as it did I think that this movie just made it feel so much more obsolete in that regard.
No.
I know some people will disagree,
Yeah.
and I get that, but that is just my point of view. All the voice acting was great. I loved the addition of Miguel Ojeda. He was a very engaging character. Also, the Spot. I kind of like how they both filled in the gaps for what the other lacked. The Spot was definitely more funny.
Mm-hmm.
He was more entertaining. He had had some he was making quips with Spider-Man. His scenes were very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Miguel,
Stuff about his holes.
could you please stop and talking
about your
holes over
Yeah.
here? There was clearly a lot more humor with the Spot. Whereas I feel like Miguel O'Hara had a little more intimidation to him.
Yeah.
It kind of felt a little more,
I think that was the point.
a little more like an obstacle. But I feel like in the next movie, the roles may not be reversed because I don't see Miguel O'Hara working as well as a comedic character. But clearly, the Spot now in this movie, where they leave his character off, he definitely has a lot more intimidation, a lot more, power to him. He's definitely going to feel a lot more intimidating in the next movie.
Right.
So it's
But
kind
I
of
like that.
I like that too. It's just going to be interesting seeing how Miguel O'Hara is then going to play because his character kind of filled in that gap in this movie. So I wonder what exactly he's going to do in the next movie.
I also like how this film questions you about who really is the villain. Is it the Spot that's objectively is the villain, or is it Miguel? Because Miguel obviously is.
Miguel's like an anti-hero, kind of.
Yeah, but he still has this intimidation within him.
Yeah.
Especially the railroad scene where
of course.
they're going up.
Oh yeah,
Because he thinks he has good intentions, and you could see how his intentions.
But he's
might
actively
be.
Condoning real fucking murder and just standing by.
Yeah.
And also,
Exactly.
I guess a little also tiny issue I have with the movie is that there are just some coincidences and character motivations where I'm like, okay, but do you really have any evidence? Are you just basing it off of what this guy has said? But, over time, I kind of feel less and less engaged by those criticisms. I feel like there is more, motivation to everybody else than I used to think. But, with there being a superhero movie and with it being a kid's movie too, or somewhat of a kid's movie, it does feel like there's a little bit of conveniences that I would have preferred if they were just left a little bit farther out of the equation, but whatever. It's a superhero movie. I come to expect it by now, and the fact that this movie still had those and still managed to impress me with everything else, I don't really give a shit. I frankly don't give a shit. I don't think it's nearly that bad.
No.
For
sure, yeah.
Soundtrack's great.
Soundtrack is very good. Metro Boomin, who produced the soundtrack, did a great job, and Daniel Pemberton, who did the score, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to that actually quite a bit.
I mean, the first movie soundtrack isn't bad. I do like
Not at all, but
Fun.
I remember the Lil Wayne scenes, and I'm like, that's just not a good choice.
The Post Malone song's okay too.
I actually kind of like Sunflower, but
It's
yeah,
okay. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
It's like a hit. You hear it for 1 year and you don't never listen to it again after that year. I don't know. That's for me at least.
I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like Metro Boomin's score felt a little more tailored to the film, whereas it felt like in the first movie, the soundtrack felt a little bit more like a compilation of just really good songs.
Yep.
Whereas I feel like in this movie, Metro Boomin's soundtrack, or the entire collage of songs made for the movie, felt much more in place.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Much more of a killer soundtrack.
I also like the small cameo of Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Donald Glover makes a brief appearance,
That
and
was,
that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I think it worked, honestly.
Yeah, it was a short one, but
There are
I
people
enjoyed it.
There are people complaining that the live action moments are just there for references and they don't have more agency, but quite honestly, if they did, it would have taken away from the animation.
Yeah.
I know.
I like that they're just used to,
Yeah, they're just used very sparingly. That's how it should be.
Yeah, and they're also used to drive home the point sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the only one that didn't work for me was the Venom moment with the gas station clerk. I was like, okay, this is...
I don't know. I thought it was okay.
That's fair, that's fair.
Kind of funny.
I was like, it's just, whatever.
Come on, it's Venom.
Venom.
That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Yeah. Eminem, bro. Bars. Bars. Of course it's ass. It's fucking Eminem.
Yeah.
He sucks.
He sucks now. Alright,
Rip Eminem.
Rip Eminem. Good music. Rip Eminem, good music. Alright, I don't really have a ton else to say that you guys didn't touch on pretty well.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Oh, actually I have one more criticism.
Okay.
I did not personally. I think that they the whole build up to the twist in the final 10 minutes. I kind of and this is purely personal. I kind of figured it out kind of early, like right when he does like the whole
I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, when he does that, I was like, and then the one character, I'm not going to spoil, doesn't really have much reaction. I was like, oh, I get it. The fucking spider, like, I get it. And they spent an extra, like, 5 minutes kind of slowly building it up. So as someone who figured it out, I was kind of like, okay, we're, like, come on.
Oh, right,
I guess for you.
No,
I heard this up a little bit.
I did figure it out a little bit, but I was kind of just going to let it play it out.
And that's fair, and I will say, repeated viewings have helped me soften to it a little bit.
I had no idea. That was the thing. It was genuine shock. That was it.
Yeah.
And again, you saw in my face.
I did, and I'm glad that you were able to have that. Like, I'm glad you were able to have that whole moment, have that whole scene like fully play out for you in a way that didn't spoil it for you. But for me, it did feel just a little bit like I was like, okay, it feels like this is just waiting for the younger people in the audience to catch up. And as someone who's not a child, I kind of wish that it was maybe just.
Well, you're a child in mind. Still.
I know, but this movie had some. This movie clearly was also just made for teenagers and people who are older than just children. Yeah. It's not purely a kids movie, so
honestly, I'd argue it's not a kids movie really at all.
Yeah.
Well, saying it's a kids movie would imply that it's kitty, but like
Super Mario.
Yeah,
it's not like that at all.
There are other movies that this movie does feel like it's for kids and for adults. And those are the animated movies and movies in general that stick out to me the most.
Mm-hmm.
Although, of course, as an adult, I like my purely adult movies. You know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like
Same.
Like Outwaters.
Like Outwaters, yeah.
Yeah, purely adult films. Yeah, definitely Barbie.
Yeah.
That's my gold standard. No, I'm just.
I'm ready for ratings. Go ahead,
too.
Vayner Raven.
I think this is going to be the only rating here throughout this whole video, but I'm giving it a full-fledged 10 out of 10. It is amazing. Love it.
Let's go.
Favorite. Love it.
Favorite of the year?
Yep.
You go, brother.
Well,
You go.
Also, like,
At least one of the favorites of the year.
Yeah, past lives. We need to talk about past lives.
We'll talk about that next. Or after Blackberry. You go next.
I will say, like, superhero movies, like, just are not my thing usually. Like, I have a hard time coming back on superhero movies, rewatching superhero movies. Like, they're never the movies that I initially am like, I want to rewatch a movie right now, I'm going to watch a superhero movie. So, like, I will say sometimes, like, when I watch a superhero movie and, like, you know, a new one that's come out and I like it actually, it sometimes will just fall down in my head, like, over time because I don't have an urge to rewatch it.
Yeah.
But I will say this one was really great, and I really did enjoy it. And I have it at a 7, but like I think I am going to change it to an 8 after my last rewatch.
All right.
But yeah, 7 or an 8 for sure. I think I'm going to change it to an 8. So
Coolio. Then I guess I'll be the lowest rating. I'll give it a strong 7 to a light 8, but I'm keeping it at a very strong 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
That's my rating.
Yeah, awesome.
All right.
Next up, ladies and gentlemen, Blackberry. And I'll go first because
Go ahead, go first.
I
You haven't gone first.
have a little bit to say. Blackberry is the new Matt Johnson film, and I'm going to say this now. I've been a huge fan of Matt Johnson for quite a while now. Ever since he released his second feature film, Operation Avalanche, I have been a pretty big fan of his. I really connect with his movie within a movie kind of style where he usually plays people making a movie in his movies. I really like that. I love Nirvana the band, the show, really entertaining show, very funny. And The Dirties, his first movie, very very effective in what it was trying to do, also very funny, also had a great ending. All of his movies have been really fucking solid, you know?
They have been.
And I'm just going to say this now. I think Blackberry might be his best. I don't know. I don't really have any reasons in particular that I wouldn't apply to his previous films. But I think the fact that this is his first departure from his style, this is purely like a biopic kind of Social Network-esque kind of movie.
Yeah.
It's his first deviation from his real style, and I will say, with that risk, he pulled it off just as well, if not better, than his previous movies. This movie was so engaging, very funny, well acted, well written. The score by Jay McCarroll. Jay McCarroll. He really stretched his legs with this one. He also did the score for Kid Detective, which apparently Matt Johnson had some hand in as well. They had a very, like, instrumental, noirish style. But with this movie, he relied a lot more on the electronic sounds he could create. There are a lot of points where Blackberry sounds were used as part of the score, like dial-up tones, the key beeps. There were points where that was used as part of the score, and that worked really well. He did a fantastic job branching out. This movie is the Matt Johnson group branching out, and I'm just fascinated that it worked out so well. I loved it. The acting, great. I loved Jay Baruchel, probably his best performance.
Yep.
Fucking Glenn Howerton.
Glenn Howerton
was fantastic in this movie. I loved his character.
Me too. He should at least get nominated for
I
Best
want
Supporting
him to
Actor.
I want him to get an Oscar
Or
nod.
win.
I don't think he will, but I want him to because he really transformed into his character.
Dude.
Did a fantastic job.
Honestly.
If you are a Succession fan, if you are a fan of the show Succession and you want your fix of people yelling about stocks and yelling F-bombs and yelling about business shit, watch this movie. You will get that. You will get plenty of that. As someone who's a fan of Succession and felt a little starved for that kind of side of for that kind of Succession feel, this movie did it. And this movie did it very well while also feeling it's like its own unique thing. And really, Glenn Howerton did a great job. Matt Johnson also played a character in this movie, and he played a character that a character that has been in his other movies before, a very movie reference heavy character. And aside from like maybe one or two lines where I'm like, yeah, it feels a little forced, I will say, natural. It felt natural, and it felt funny, and it felt engaging. I liked it. I liked that side of him a lot.
Me too. I actually thought that character was funny.
Yeah, and there's
hilarious.
also a brief role from Sung-Won Cho, who's Pro ZD. I really enjoyed his character when he was in the film. Michael Ironside, also very entertaining when he was in the film. Everyone was cast well, and it's not like Oppenheimer where it felt distracting, except maybe for Ironside. I think all the actors fit their casting very well.
They all do.
I really was engaged with this movie from start to finish, and what's also impressive to me is that his other films, Matt Johnson's other films, they feel like they're much shorter. They're like an hour and a half, hour and 20. They're much shorter than this. This movie's 2 hours, and it feels just as well paced. Not a single
Flies
moment
by.
felt boring. Yeah, it flew by, and I honestly consider that to be a little more impressive, honestly, than his previous films.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else
You wanna
much
go
to
last?
say in my brief thoughts.
Okay.
But whoever wants to go next, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say I agree with everything Xander said. Like, I absolutely loved it. I saw it in the theater. It was so good, honestly. I loved it. Like, I've seen just a lot of it could have been so much more basic and boring than what
It could have felt
was.
like a Social Network copy.
It could have felt like a Social Network copy. It really could have. But oh my god, the camera work, the cinematography was so riveting. The way it was directed, very, very compelling, structure, and just technical component to it.
Yeah.
The story was really what made it so engaging. That doesn't take anything off of how technically amazing it was.
I want to mention
Because-
something.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Mhm.
I will say The cinematography is probably the one part of his style, aside from the movie referencing character, that's retained from his other movies. His other movies have a very handheld, claustrophobic kind of style.
Feels like The Office.
Feels like The Office, yeah.
With the way that they zoom in on characters' faces.
Yeah, it feels very documentary-esque, but this movie is not a documentary, obviously. So I'm kind of glad that they retained a little something that made it feel like a Matt Johnson movie. And that's kind of all I had to say about that.
Yeah, like I was just going to say, the cinematography being like that, claustrophobic, close-up when it needs to be, like, I could see so many people loving it due to that, and it does just make the film more realistic. Like, I really can't stress enough how much the cinematography elevates this from being, like, your average, like, docudrama, biopic movie, and it elevates it into, like, an actually, like, pretty amazing biopic. And,
yeah,
like, and honestly, yeah, I would just wanted to back up what Xander was saying. Like, Glenn Howerton, fucking amazing. Like, maybe one of my favorite performances of the year. Like, he is so good. Like, he pulls off the serious, like, you know, stock guy shit so good.
Yeah.
Like, there is no comedy in him, but it works. You know what I mean? Like,
his character's not trying to be funny,
no.
but the way that he's presented, he's so fucking riveting.
I know.
And sometimes he's fucking hilarious. I'm from Waterloo, where the vampires hang out. It's like his delivery of that is so serious, but like you're just like, wow, you are a fucking crazy dude, and you're just laughing.
Yeah.
Because you think because I mean, how do you take that line? And luckily, the film presents it in a way where it is kind of tongue in cheek. If it were more serious, it would have felt it would have felt way more out of place.
Right. You're just kind of like in awe. At least I was a lot of what he was doing. Like, I won't spoil, but like near the last 40 minutes, like obviously it kind of has a rise and fall kind of story.
Yeah.
And once the fall is kind of happening, when they shoot what is happening with him and what he's doing, it's very compelling. I'll just say, like what he's doing, and you know, it's amazing. He's great. I found the story just like consistently just like kicking ass the whole movie. I had a blast in the theater.
I don't typically enjoy movies like this. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head is like Social Network.
That's what I'm saying. It felt like Social
Moneyball maybe a little bit, but this is better than Moneyball.
This is better than Moneyball. Moneyball is really fun, but like this is better than Moneyball. Like technical wise, it's a lot better than Moneyball.
It's a lot more engaging than Moneyball. And sure, I would have preferred a more pristinely shot film like Social Network, but then it would feel less like a Matt Johnson movie, and it would feel more like a studio movie.
It felt so like a personal project to him.
It still felt like he gave a shit.
Yeah. Like honestly, I like it. I could see myself on rewatch liking it just as much as Social Network, as crazy as that sounds. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like,
fair.
I really did have a great time with it. But yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah, all the performances were amazing. Writing was great. Yeah, great movie.
I have seen Operation Avalanche beforehand, and I really loved Operation Avalanche.
I did too. I would totally see that again.
Yeah, I love the whole idea of just faking the moon landing is a really fascinating idea.
Yeah,
and I love the way he was able to present it in a really funny way, but also in a very dark, but also very.
There were some kind of tense and manic moments in that movie.
Yeah. And this movie is very good, but I might have to say I'm probably the one that doesn't love it like the most. I still love it.
But you're the one who's like probably the least
I still think
excited by it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think it's great.
Yeah.
I love the acting from everybody, especially Glenn Howard. His screaming really works very well.
His screaming shook my theater.
I know.
It was hilarious.
Mine too.
Yeah,
I had
it was great.
I had the chance to use it in theaters, but I didn't.
That's okay.
I was kind of busy, and I just like, I'm not that.
Might have made our experience better.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think seeing it in the theater may have elevated it.
Yeah.
But it was still fun. I love as well how frustrating it is. There's some very frustrating scenes.
Yeah.
There are moments in which you're like, God, you're a fucking idiot for doing this. Like, why?
Yeah.
I love the character of who played the main character.
Jake Baruchel.
Yeah, I love his descent as well. Like,
for sure.
Like at the beginning, he's just he's the same. He's this geeky character, but then at the end, he is kind of becoming Glenn Howard as well. I love,
Right, he kind of is turning into a mini version of him. In a way.
Yeah.
Score's great. I love the title sequence as well. That sequence is very well
Yeah, the
done.
opening titles were very unique.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
As well, also a lot of the side characters are really fun. I love the feeling of like late 90s, early 2000s.
The film did a great job at representing the
It's time period.
it's the time period. And I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to go on a little side tangent here. My father owned a BlackBerry for years, and seeing this story play out, I was kind of having a lot of fun placing myself in certain time periods where I was like,
Right.
oh yeah, I remember when this was going on, or I remember where I was in my life, or where my dad was when this was going on. And I also remember the exact, like when they get to the ending where BlackBerry fully fell, I remember when he got rid of his BlackBerry, and I remember being in that mindset, and I found it just so interesting seeing it being played out in the movie, you know?
Right. I feel that. My grandma had one.
Yeah.
So
I never had one. My parents didn't. I think maybe they did, but I probably won't remember. But
long time ago.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Camera work's very good. It did remind me a lot of Succession. I imagine he saw Succession like right before.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was inspired in some way.
I'm not saying like this is a direct.
Oh, it's not a ripoff, no.
Yeah, but as well, I think some of my issues. I think it's a bit long. I definitely.
Yeah?
I did felt the length of it, and there were certain scenes that I felt like could be chopped.
Okay.
I was not huge on Michael Ironside's character. I get why he was there,
Okay.
but to me, I just didn't really feel like his character was like the best thing. And I as well, I do think the script is great, and I do really love the direction. I think that
Very well written.
upon rewatching it, maybe that will change. But for me, I think that was just kind of my only issues with it. It's very small, but it's very. But
I
there's
don't entirely agree.
I remember his character.
I remember his character, yeah. But you know what? If you feel that way, I'm not at all.
If you guys feel that way, I think there's so much positives in this film that there
Very
are
much so.
negatives.
Yeah.
So I think it could change that. And also, fuck whoever produced this, because the camera's getting blurred and we're getting a fucking DVD here. What?
Really? They're not releasing an American Blu-ray. They're only releasing the Blu-ray in Canada.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh,
Yeah. Fuck that. Fuck that.
But
Shit.
I'll probably have to just export it.
I'll just fucking buy an export.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sucks.
I've done that before. Not gonna.
Yeah.
I have a hard-boiled one, region-free import.
Yeah.
I have that.
But
Crochet.
I mean, good. Like,
Same.
I mean, Canada is region A, so you should be.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's region A. Canada's
Oh,
region A.
well then why are we complaining? We
Yeah.
just buy one from Canada.
Still, I mean, it's still
It would
like.
have been nice.
Kind of wish if we just gotten one that's more central, more easy to access. Yeah,
Right.
the Canadian one's probably going to be hard to find.
I don't really have much to say. I think it's a great film. I think that it's a great biopic. I mean, we've had like a couple biopics this year. We've had Air, we had this, and
Oppenheimer.
and
And a couple of them have been fucking damn good. And I'm not usually into biopics.
I'm not usually into
I don't
biopics
really like
either.
biopics that much, but these ones have been good.
And I watched half of Air in preparation for this, and let me just say I watched half of it. I didn't finish it. Not a great movie.
I turned on 30 minutes of it, and I couldn't.
And you know
do it.
what?
I gave up.
I think I'm going to say this, and I might surprise some people. I think Blackberry, as of right now, at this very moment, might be my favorite biopic of the year above Oppenheimer, maybe.
Jeez.
I just managed to personally connect with this a little more. Again, still have to see Oppenheimer again, and still have to see this again. I've only seen it once. I saw it once in the theater about a month and a half ago. But you know what? Fuck, I really connected with this, and I gotta say, given that Matt Johnson has been making stylistically similar movies for the past almost decade, I'm glad to see him branch out and do something new, and still maintain his voice and still maintain his style in a way
where I still feel like he really cared about this project, and it didn't feel like just a studio thing where he's doing like a one for them, one for me. It feels like one for him that he still wants to do, but it just happens to get some good studio backing. So, yeah, I'll give my rating. I'm feeling a light 8 on this one. I really enjoyed this a lot. It is probably my favorite of Matt Johnson's filmography. I think I may like the TV show more, but that's kind of unfair to say. But yeah, I'm feeling a light 8, a good light 8.
All right.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give it a strong 7 for right now.
All right,
Rewatch could change it to an 8, but yeah, for right now.
Strong 7 for me as well.
nice,
Then we're all kind of on the same page.
nice,
Yeah.
Very, very, very great film. Really.
Yeah, me too.
awesome. All right, so Blackberry done. Let's get into past lives, gentlemen.
Oh boy.
I got 10
since-
minutes, so. we got
And
it.
since this guy wanted to talk about it the most, you go ahead.
Okay, Past Lives, definitely my favorite. I don't know about favorite of the year, but like favorite of the ones that we've talked about so far. We've talked about really some great ones, but Past Lives really to me is my favorite. I think the only film this year that maybe I like more is Heroic, but I don't know if that's even gonna fucking come out this year. 'Cause we saw that-
Sundance.
we saw that at Sundance, so we'll see. But yeah, Past Lives was absolutely beautiful, like in every way. Yeah, just the way that it kind of portrayed like a connection that you experience in your childhood with someone, and then the way that you reconnect with that.
Yeah,
I've experienced that,
Me
so
too.
I just like, wow, that it really did feel real. All the acting was amazing, such a realistic portrayal, and really nailed it home was the final 45 minutes. Some of my favorite filmmaking.
the final
of the
act.
year
Yeah, I gotta say,
was
really
amazing. There's a couple scenes near the end that hit like very, very hard.
good. Agreed.
We were brought to tears in the theater, like.
I mean, I wasn't crying, but I mean, like, I certainly felt it. I
Yeah,
felt
like,
the
I
emotion
was-
for real.
I had a couple tears like by the end. Like it was a lot. I need to find who the husband of what's that actor's name? He was an amazing just character in general. Amazingly written, and like I was surprised. Like the first scene, I was surprised I was surprised at what they were gonna do with his character. And the first scene is him like they're in bed and they're having this like discussion about her childhood friend coming to visit, and it was just so compelling. Like from the first moment he comes on screen, like his character is very interesting, and the amount of love and compassion that he had for his wife was very admirable. I would say, like for being able like to let everything happen that happened, and to let her like experience the grief of that with that other
guy.
her other connection was really amazing. Like I don't know if I even have the strength to do that in a relationship.
But I
Like,
also-
he had a lot of like the amount of like self-awareness, you know, and
Yeah.
just like care he had was amazing. And I don't know, I just don't. There's not many like movies with characters that deep and nuanced like that are out right now. I don't know, you know what I mean?
At least out
Like,
this year.
At least this year, yeah. Like pretty amazing stuff. I just thought the writing was fucking superb.
I also love how they didn't. If this movie were made in America with a big studio behind it, they would have made him a jerk boyfriend, purely made for like, or jerk husband, purely made to make us root for the romance. Even though, quite
That's what I'm
honestly, it wasn't a romance.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like these two characters, and I mean the two Korean characters. It didn't feel like they were in love. It just felt like they harbored a lot of like respect and at least care and nostalgia for one another.
And they had a connection for sure.
They had a connection.
Yeah.
They were still harboring that, and they were still living through the ideas of what if. And this movie was basically a tackling of, well, if you engage with that what if, you won't be the person you are today.
Yeah.
Right.
The what if is what makes you human. But if that certain event didn't go the exact way it did, you wouldn't be who you are today, and it would have gone either better or for worse.
Mhm.
And I think this movie does a great job of tackling that. And yeah, that husband character, really fucking good character. Great acting, great writing for him. He was a very interesting and likable character. I didn't
Yeah.
find myself. he just happened to be the guy who married her.
Yeah.
And also, clearly, she loved him. It wasn't a thing where, like, she married him because she was lonely.
Yeah.
They clearly do love each other. And I love how it was tackled in a way where he also just feels like, you know what? I understand that this is just a guy that who was around and who was a big part of you before I came along. And I can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
What can I do? Like, what... I can't, like, if I take that away from you, I'm just the jerk husband. In fact, they actually acknowledge, he says that exact thing. He's like, I'm not just going to be the jerk white American husband who steals, who like, prevents you from seeing your child, from preventing you from seeing an old childhood flame or childhood connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how this movie acknowledges that it's not just like, you're not just going to run into a childhood flame and fall right back in love with them, because they're not part of your life until then.
I know.
Yeah.
And if we, you know, I'm not gonna talk spoilers, but like there is some things that happen where it's like juicy. Like I could get into it. You know what I mean? Like pretty interesting ending. Pretty probably my favorite ending of the year. And yeah, I'll just say like I completely agree with everything you said about his character.
Not to mention the performance of the main actress, really fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Greta Lee, yeah, that's her name.
Yeah.
And fun fact, she also played Lydia in Spider-Verse, the AI girl, not the one controlling that hub area, but like the one who helps Miguel. Anyway, whatever. Greta Lee, great job. She had quite a few build-up moments where she was given the time to slowly build up her emotions throughout a scene in like a good one take or a oneer or a long take, where they kind of just let the camera linger on her face and sort of let her slowly build up her emotions up until the peak of it, and it was done very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
She really proved herself to be a pretty fantastic actress with this movie.
did.
I really hope she goes on to do some more dramatic roles, because she really did a great job here. And
And
so did the other guy.
Yeah. And honestly, by the end of the movie, just have to say this, is like by the end of the movie, I actually feel like the husband character, he really was the guy for her at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The things that they both connected on in terms of career and passions, it just makes so much more sense for them to be happy. Even though the film isn't told from their perspective of a relationship, by the end, you really understand why they connected, and like everything really did make sense to me by the end, and it felt good with me. And that's the last thing I'll say. So.
Go ahead, Thomas. I have a couple of things to share, but I'll go on a tangent. So, go ahead.
This.
Gotta go in a minute.
All right. Well, let him share his thoughts, and let me go on my tangent, and then we'll give ratings.
I think Past Lives is one of the best films of the year. I love this movie. It is heartbreaking. It feels real, and it makes me, in a sense, want to be a better human being.
Yeah.
It is emotionally perfectly acted. The writing is perfect. I felt the characters' wants and loves. And even if, like, there's a great list on Letterboxd, it's like the right person, but it's at the wrong time. Like that's sort of how it also feels about this film.
For sure.
And for this being her directorial debut, she fucking hits it right off the bats. As well as like a Charlotte Webb's with Aftershock.
Charlotte Wells.
Yeah,
oh,
Charlotte Wells.
Yeah, this actually did remind me a lot of that, and I will say, I appreciate that the directing isn't, like, overly showy.
Yeah.
I like how everything still consistently looked great and well done, but it didn't feel like it was actively shoving its style down our throats. It
And there's
still
some
felt very
amazing
mature.
shots.
Yeah.
And there are some great shots,
Amazing
absolutely.
long takes and stuff in it. And that's
Absolutely.
And I love I love how there's only like 3 main characters. There is Nora, Hong Soon, and Arthur. Everyone else is just kind of like in the background and everything.
Yeah.
And the sister, of course, but she isn't really in that film. But like the film is like centered around these 3 characters, but mostly these 2, and we get the building of the relationships from young kids to
like young adults
and
to
then-
more aged adults,
Yeah.
but still
and yet
like in their 30s, or mid-30s or whatever. Yeah.
and yet you can still feel even though like they may not be like fully in love, there's still like that thread that can still be hold on.
Yeah,
to.
you can feel it. Like, there's
But I'm
still
glad that
something.
I'm glad that they acknowledge that as like, yeah, but we were still younger, and we still have led these separate lives for so long that if we engage with it, I mean,
They're just at two completely different places.
there are two completely different places. Yeah, and I think that you pointing out that it's like a wrong place, wrong time, or right person, wrong time. Very apt.
Yeah. And also, I love. This is also wrong. I'm mentioning opening titles. I love the opening where it's just you see the three and you hear someone saying like, "Oh, who's who?"
Yeah, it opens with like a monologue from an unseen person, and I think that person is supposed to represent us.
Yeah.
Remember it was someone at the bar?
Yeah, it was someone at the bar.
Someone at the bar was like
It was supposed to be, but we're not shown who it is, but it's shown in a way where like someone at the bar is seeing them from across the way, and they're talking about the three main characters, and it's a good representation of who we are and what we're thinking at the same time, right?
I
very intelligent.
I adore this work. I think it's great, and I'm excited to see what she's done. But
yeah, me
I'm
too.
just gonna go on a little random tangent. There's a friend of me and Thomas's, who criticized this movie a little bit, and I'm not gonna name their names obviously because I don't want to put them on blast or anything.
Shit.
I'm not gonna say their names. I'm just saying I see why they had this criticism, but I want to address it. They said that it was a little undercooked, the movie, and I can understand that, but I want to tackle that a minute, because then when you say something is undercooked, my first immediate question is, okay, what would you show farther to cook it more without burning it? Like, what more would you show? I don't think that the film showed less than it could have. I think it showed the perfect amount before it would have gotten a little long. I think that this film is about an hour and 40, around there. I think that's the perfect runtime. If it spent more time showing more things or further developing more things, I feel like it just would have gotten a little bit too cooked. I'm glad that it settled in this little spot where these little bits are focused on, like two or three things are focused on very intensely, whereas everything else is kind of given like a little bit of time instead of 5 or 6 things very intensely and then less things less intensely. I'm glad that it focused on its 2 or 3 biggest contenders, its 2 or 3 biggest like hard hitters, and then everything else is given like a little less of a spotlight, but enough to know it's there. So, I can understand why he said it was a little undercooked, but I'm just thinking to myself, I just don't know what I would go further into without making it feel like I'm overdeveloping or pointlessly going into it. Because
and it is already pretty slow paced.
If it were 2 hours long, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much.
No, me either.
I think right at the point where I would have started feeling that it was overstaying its welcome, it ended.
Because the first 45 minutes are like slow, and the way it develops is a bit slow. It works. I actually think, thinking back on it, it all works. Like by the end, I think it all works. But like it is a bit slow. So I think if there was any more, I don't know, it might have actually made me.
Its lack of showy direction also contributed to that. If it had more stylistic direction, it probably wouldn't have felt as slow. But I'm glad that it isn't, because it feels more nuanced that way. I guess also one criticism I have is that after the characters age from kids to adults, they don't really age any further from that. There's like a 12-year gap, and I don't feel as if they aged much in that gap. I think maybe there was like more bags under the eyes that was added, or maybe like more
couple wrinkles.
Cheek, but like but it wasn't. It didn't feel like enough. I felt like there should have been a little more.
I guess
I don't know.
It didn't really bother me.
It doesn't truly bother me. I'm just thinking like, but this is 12 years. They went from like 22 to like mid 30s, and there's like no change.
I don't know. I think I did notice a bit of change in her. Him, I don't know.
Him, not at all.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't think I noticed much of anything. I noticed some, like a couple wrinkles, maybe some bags for her. Not anything.
Like bags under her eyes,
Yeah, but not for him.
That's it. That's kind of it. And I kind of wish there was like a little more. Also, when I saw this movie, that first act, just a little slow.
Yeah.
That's it. Just a little slow. It remains to see how I feel on a second watch. Maybe it'll be completely fucking ignored or avoided. But you know what? Where this movie ended up, I was very satisfied. It was sweet. It was heartfelt. It was kind of heartbreaking, but it felt life-affirming in a way.
Yeah.
And it was the kind of movie. It's probably one of the better A24 movies that they've done in the last 5 to 6 years.
It's at the top for one of the.
It's
top
one of the
movies.
better ones for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Give it a rating. I don't know.
you go ahead first.
I'll just say one of the most emotionally mature films to come out in a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give it solid ass 8 out of 10.
So I actually lied when I said that this video only have one 10. There's now 2 10s. I'll give Past Lives a 10 out of 10. I
Nice.
adored it.
Hell
It's
yeah.
probably my second or third. I do need to rewatch Godland. So
Yeah.
one of those.
And we're not going to be talking about Godland today because my thoughts on it.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, he hasn't
Sorry,
seen
guys.
it, and I also don't want to talk about that movie right now because I have a lot to say,
Yeah.
and I want to gather my thoughts more before I ever do a review on that. If I'll ever do a review on that.
Yeah.
But me on Past Lives, I'm feeling a decent 2-strong 8.
Yeah. Same.
I don't know where I'll land on a second watch. Maybe I'll land right in the same spot. Maybe I'll like it more. But as of right now, it's one of the better A24 movies that have come out in the last few years. I really enjoyed it. It was exactly what it needed to be, and it did just a little more to make me stay longer. I really enjoyed it.
Same.
So he needs to go. So
he's good.
I gotta run.
So Jacob had to run home.
Yep.
So it's us again.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about one that we've both seen, and then we're each gonna talk about one that we have seen individually, but the other hasn't.
Mhm.
So we're gonna start with the one that we've both seen. We're gonna talk about John Wick 4.
Yeah.
And who you want to start?
John Wick is a series that me and my father love. He loves the first film, he loves the second film, and the third film. I'd seen the first one. I rewatched it with friends, and it still holds up. I still really enjoy it. I haven't seen 2 in a while, but I do remember a lot. The pencil fight, the pencil scene, the opening. I saw that, but then I passed out. 3 does not hold up.
I don't like 3.
But 4 is, I think is honestly the best one in the film, because this film may be the best action. I mean, besides, actually I like Spider-Verse a lot more, but John Wick 4 has the best live action. Live, like, people. Like, I think that...
With actual stunts and shit,
Yeah. And I think that this film has I think out of all the stories, it's also I think it is the best. It is a very well-deserving film of, like, the quote-unquote, like conclusion, per se.
Yes.
It does have a very well-done conclusion, and I love the ending of it. There's some great action. The scene in the club with, like, all these people around.
Yeah, that was a fun scene.
The hotel with the blind guy as well.
Very entertaining.
The stairs were fun.
The stairs, yep.
And just the whole ending of it.
Just so many memorable
the
action set pieces.
The
entire third act.
The Eiffel Tower where they just spin around.
Yeah.
It's just a very well done, and the characters as well, and some of the characters that they introduce, the blind guy,
Donnie Yen, baby.
The hitman character by, I forget the actor's name. He was in Candyman.
Oh yeah, the guy who his name is Nobody.
Nobody.
Or No One.
He was cool. I like him.
He was a good addition.
I like as well the villain of Bill Skarsgård, who I've always liked. I like Bill Skarsgård. Obviously, I think he's known for being Pennywise, but I also think he was good in Barbarian as well. Maybe I know you weren't a fan of Barbarian.
I personally didn't get into Barbarian, but he was good in it.
Yeah, and I like his story, and I do like what he did. So I'm just kind of looking it up.
That's alright. Do you mind if I get my thoughts on it?
Yeah, sure.
Alright, so I am gonna be on the opposite side when it comes to the series. I'm not a John Wick guy. I think the first one is fun. I think the second one is better, but still neither of them are really like that great for me. They don't really scratch the itch, like the action itch that other movies like the Raid movies do, or like Mad Max Fury Road. I think those movies stick out like a little bit more in my mind. But you know, they're not bad. I just wish that I wish they were the standard. That's all. I think people who see them as like especially exceptional, I think it's like going a little too far with it. They're not like that amazing.
Yeah.
I also don't agree that they're 100% fun. Like, you know, don't take themselves seriously at all. I disagree.
They do take themselves seriously.
I think they take themselves a little too seriously here and there. And sure, the Raid movies do, but they make up for that with actual, like, much better done scores, and also the action is much more out there and insane, and also I care about the character more in the Raid movies. In this movie, I don't think Keanu Reeves is a very good actor. I'm sorry, I just don't. I think he's fine for this character, this like emotionless guy. I think that's fine, but he doesn't scratch. He's just not my thing. Like, the John Wick movies are just not my kind of action movies. I know there are a lot of people that connect with them, including some good friends of mine. I think also rewatching them with those people, shout out Bill and Blair, and Kalen, I think that helped me engage with them a little more, seeing them from their eyes. But at the end of the day, the farther I come away from it, the less I like them. And I just think the third one's just a bad movie. I don't like the third one at all. That's like a light 5, strong 4. I don't like that movie at all. But I'm just going to say this right now. John Wick 4 was a really, really fun movie. I actually highly enjoyed this one because it finally went full on nut job. It finally went fucking insane. And I feel like in the last few movies they haven't, like, maybe here and there they do, but they hadn't fully, like, gone in it yet. But I think in this movie they finally did it. And also, they found more creative ways to present the action. That whole top-down sequence in that abandoned house, that was fantastic. And the fact that it was a 1 or 2 and not just like some cut to cut bullshit, that was awesome. Also, the scene at the stairs, very funny. They clearly went for that for laughs and not just seriousness. And also the colors feel so much more pronounced. It visually stood out more, and the tone felt much better.
The church scene especially.
The church scene, yeah, and also that sunrise scene at the end of the movie, like, it felt so much more aware of its campiness that I honestly just felt so relieved when watching it. I was just like, God damn, finally.
Yeah.
Finally! And, you know, I just didn't feel like the other movies really exuded that as much as this one did. I think this one finally nailed it.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, still not good. He's still not a good actor. But in this movie, I think they actually started to get it now, because he doesn't really say much in this movie. In fact, I think he actually has. I think he talks the least in this movie.
I think he just shoots guns. That's it.
Yeah, I think now they finally got that he's just not great, not a great actor, and they finally given him lines that he can kind of lean into in a way that feels self-aware.
Yeah.
Like that whole his first line in the movie is, yeah. Like, they clearly got it this time.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy, because in the last movies, I feel like they, like, the whole, like, I'm thinking I'm back. Like, that's not bad, but, like, come on.
It reminds me a little bit of Bane from Dark Knight.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but it's not great. But yeah, in this movie they clearly had a little more fun with it, and that's just how I feel about it opening. So much more clear action in this movie, and Donnie Yen as the blind guy. He really was. He's probably the most unique side character they've added.
Yeah.
Rina Sawayama was in it briefly, and she was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I feel like the side characters stood out a lot more in this one than they did in the previous movie.
Even Clancy Brown,
Clancy Brown had some fun stuff in it.
He had like 1 or 2 scenes. That's it. But like
Bill Skarsgård, as you already mentioned.
Yeah. As well, like I like this idea of like a secret organization per se.
Obviously the lore behind John Wick is kind of interesting on its own, right? Yeah. Like this whole secret society of hitmen that have their own code of honor. Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I do love that, and I love I like the send off of Lance Reddick's character.
Lance Reddick.
Yeah, who unfortunately did pass away before this film was released.
They did a good job at sending him off.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
I mean, yeah, but still, rest in peace, man.
Rest in peace, Lance Reddick. Yeah.
He's a great actor, and I think he's great in these movies as well.
He is a welcome addition to the John Wick movies. I'll say that he's probably my favorite part. He's one of my favorite parts, at least, of the previous movies.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, the side characters stick out much more. When I think of side characters from John Wick 2 or John Wick 1 or even
3.
John Wick 3, especially John Wick 3, Halle Berry sucks. I didn't like her in that movie. The only other character that compares is Willem Dafoe in John Wick 1, but that's Willem fucking Dafoe.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite actors ever. I also like they got the big fat Russian dude. I kind of like he was like a brief villain that was very fun and entertaining.
The poker scene was really good.
That poker scene was fun. Nobody was a very entertaining addition. I also liked that one Russian girl in this movie. Like the side characters in this one felt so much better than other characters in the other movies did. Personally, I just didn't connect with those ones in the previous movies. But now they brought in these new ones that I just personally got a lot more out of because they leaned more into the campiness and it felt much more natural to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of. I also love the score. The score was pretty good.
Was pretty good. I don't remember particular moments from it.
Yes,
but it's very, very club music, very synth heavy, like very pounding. I remember that.
Yeah. I think as well, again, as a send off to John Wick's character and also of the franchise.
Yeah.
Kinda. They're trying to make a 5th one, which makes no sense.
If they make a 5th one, I don't think I'll be rushing to it.
What, is John Wick going to be a fucking zombie in this one? He's just going to hear the Call of Duty zombie voice be like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a really great live action. I'm a huge John Wick. I like the John Wick films. I'm not I'm probably out of all of them, this was probably the one I would actually go to the most.
Oh, I would definitely revisit this one again. I would definitely rewatch this one.
And it also flies by.
It flies by. It's the longest one and it feels the shortest. I would definitely revisit this one before I revisit any of the other John Wick movies.
Because it just feels so consistent. There's one sequence and it goes, like, especially the hotel, that went on for an hour, but it felt so consistent within the ways. But it feels so consistent, and then there's the second act that also feels consistent.
Yeah.
There's also, like,
this is the most tonally consistent movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and as well, the more I think about it, like, the writing was just okay. Like, there's no
it's typical John Wick writing. I wasn't surprised by that.
Yeah, actually, in reality, it's sort of like that. It's John Wick writing, so it's nothing special. But yeah, I think that's it. I have nothing more to say. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I'm honestly interested in seeing where Chad Stahelski goes from here. I kind of want him to make more movies that aren't just John Wick. I want him to employ this very campy action style to his next movies that he's clearly doing. He's got quite a few in the works right now, apparently. I would like to see him. Just explore different avenues for action now.
I thought he did Nobody.
He didn't do Nobody. That was done by the guy who did Hardcore Henry.
Ah, right.
The writers of John Wick did Nobody, but not and I'm just gonna say this now. I like Nobody more than most of the John Wick movies, including this one actually. So, yeah, that's just me. I'm just being me.
All right. Good job.
Fuck off. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this one.
It was a 10, but as I'm thinking about it, it's more like a solid 9. I really love it.
I'm glad.
I love it. I'm probably gonna watch it soon, so I'm probably gonna change that.
All right.
Yeah.
Next, you know what? I want you to share your thoughts on Showing Up by Kelly Reichardt because I want to see it. Even though I'm not like the biggest Kelly Reichardt fan, I do want to hear your thoughts on it. So go ahead. What are your thoughts on Showing Up by Kelly Reichardt?
I'm a huge Kelly fan. I really love her works. Certain Women is great.
I agree. I love Certain Women. That's the only one from her that I really love.
I really enjoy Wendy and Lucy.
I like that one.
I've seen almost all her works except First Cow. I don't know why. It is the one that I really want to see the most.
That's fair. I've seen First Cow. I'm fine on it. It's fine.
Showing Up it stars Michelle Williams, who plays a sculpturist or an artist who works at like a camp for artists, and it's just kind of her showing her life of being an artist and also having just to live with real life stuff, including depression and also just a worker's block.
Writer's block, or workers. Well, it's not. She's not a writer, so yeah, worker's block.
Artist block, and also she has showing. She has an art show showing up. Lots of great acting. Michelle Williams and Hong Chu. Really, she also plays Hong Chao. She was great in this one. Lots of actors from a lot of her other films, especially the husband in Past Lives plays her brother in this film.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
He's also very depressed.
He was also in First Cow. He is the main character in First Cow.
Yeah, that also gives me a reason to watch First Cow, but I haven't yet. Very slow. I think that if you were to watch this as your first Kelly film, I'm certain you will not like a single other one of her films.
Well, good thing that this isn't my first.
But to me, I think that it's definitely one of my lesser favorites from her, but I still really enjoy it. I do want to give it a rewatch. I was very eepy watching this movie, so maybe that's it. But I think as a whole, I think that this is a very good, very solid film that I'd also give like a solid 7 out of 10. I think it's a good film.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, well...
So now it's Inside.
We're on the last movie that we're going to talk about in this video.
Inside by Bo Burnham.
We're talking about Inside with Willem Dafoe. I saw this like a month ago, and I wasn't expecting much. The trailers did not really grab me, but Willem Dafoe is one of my favorite actors, so I went into it like, yeah, at the very least, it'll be an entertaining performance piece for Willem Dafoe. And to be honest, I actually ended up enjoying this movie a little more than I thought I would. It's not perfect. There are a lot of flaws.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, flaws with, the house. It's one of those
Movies where you kind of just have to accept things happening that don't make any sense. You're going to be like, how the fuck does that work? Like, what exactly makes this tick? Like, what's the deal with this? And you're just going to have to accept that it doesn't get much answers.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you can get over that, if you can get past those things, this movie's actually pretty entertaining. Really sticks out visually. I found it to be very well shot, especially given the location, the limited location that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
They could have easily just done, claustrophobia, he's in a place alone, claustrophobia. They wouldn't have had to try very hard.
Yeah.
But this movie actually utilized a lot of these big, wide shots that I actually really respected. I like how this movie kind of utilized the location to some pretty good potential. And, unmentioned, but Willem Dafoe does a great job. Definitely not his best performance, but
It's Willem fucking Dafoe.
it's Willem fucking Dafoe. He does a great job at playing this very isolated, going crazy kind of character. And
he's done this before.
he has done this before with The Lighthouse, but he had someone working with him there.
Yeah.
And I think him doing this alone definitely, proved some more of his ability. This isn't a better performance than The Lighthouse, trust me.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's still a really great performance. And also, I kind of liked how we learned a little more about him as we went. I kind of there's a little bit where he gives a bit about himself, about his mindset and his motivations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of all we get, but it makes sense for the kind of character he's playing, so, I don't feel cheated out of more development. Would I have preferred a little more? Of course. And, there are some things about it that don't quite make sense. There are some character decisions that don't quite make sense. But given the film's very limited budget, location, and all that, I kind of think that it did a much better job than many other movies would have. This is definitely a better debut than I expected. I think my only, big complaint is that I just wish there was I kind of wish that there was more in the music. I don't really remember anything about the music being particularly great. They played the Macarena a couple times. That was for humorous effect. That was kind of funny. And also, I just kind of wish there was just more. I feel like the actual struggle was a little bit ignored here and there, and I kind of wish there was just more shown of that struggle. But, you know, as a bottle film, as a film that was very closed in, very simple, very sweet. It's a very short movie. It's like an hour and 25 or something. It does what it has to do, and it does it in a way that feels natural and unique. I would see it again, but, you know, it's definitely not one of those, like, best movies of the year. I don't even know if I'd put it on my recommendation side of the list. I'm sure that I'll be seeing it again to reaffirm my thoughts, but I liked it. I'm feeling a decent 6 on this one, personally. Yeah.
All right. I also checked. It's like an hour. It's 105 minutes. So like.
It's 105?
Yeah.
Oh wow! So it's actually longer than I thought it was. So, yeah, the fact that it's longer than I thought it was, but actually manages to feel like an hour and 20. I mean, yeah, that's good. It means it handles its pacing pretty well. Yeah, I'm excited to see whatever Vasilis Katsupis.
Oh no, it sounds Russian or Ukrainian.
Vasilis, yeah, it's definitely Eastern European. Vasilis Katsupis. Vasilis Katsupis. I would like to see what he does next. Yeah, light to solid 6. And that's gonna do it for the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was long. I'm gonna have a lot of fun editing this.
Yeah.
I was right. It was a lot of work, and I'm tired, and I'm annoyed, and I'm very, very, very manic right now because of this video.
Kill me. I'm kidding. Thank you very much for watching, and Thomas, thank you for taking the trip here, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have finally met you in person.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun, talking about Barbie, Oppenheimer, all these movies, having fun.
It's
Criterions.
It's not the last.
And it's not the last. We're hoping to see some more stuff before he leaves, but we won't be recording anything. See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All the Letterboxd links will be below for both me, him, and Jacob. So, bye-bye. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.